She was just a driver. Gregory said it loudly enough for the entire yard. I stood beside my lead truck at Lambert Transit Depot. The county officials were near the folding tables. Vendors had gathered along the painted curb. Behind them, a National Guard convoy waited in 2 clean rows. My brother gave a short laugh. Nobody joined him. I still had my clipboard in one hand. My company folder sat inside the truck. The deadline was getting close, and Gregory kept looking at my cab as if my signature belonged to him. Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Rivas turned toward me. He looked older than when I'd last seen him. So did I. For a second, he just stared. Then he said, "Staff Sergeant Lambert?" Gregory's smile slipped. That moment started 3 weeks earlier on a wet Monday morning in Beckley. At the time, I was 46 and running mountain line hauling from a rented office off Neville Street. I'd started the company 4 years earlier with 1 used truck, a folding desk, and a printer that jammed whenever the weather turned damp. By then, I had 3 trucks. 2 were paid off. 1 wasn't even close. I'd served 18 years in the Army. I left as a staff sergeant after 3 combat rotations. I didn't talk much about that part of my life. Most people around Beckley knew I'd served. They didn't need the details to hire me. Mountain Line handled equipment moves, event loads, and short industrial runs. Nothing glamorous. We moved generators, temporary fencing, portable lights, and whatever else people needed, moved without drama. That Monday, I was under the second truck checking a slow air leak. Rain tapped against the metal roof. My phone vibrated across the workbench. Gregory's name came up. My brother was 49 and owned Lambert Event Logistics. His business handled county fairs, business expos, charity events, and outdoor festivals. Gregory didn't own enough trucks for the larger jobs. He preferred to arrange everything and let other people do the hauling. I wiped my hand on a rag and answered, "What happened? Why does something have to happen?" "Because you called before 9. I call you before 9, only when you need a truck." He laughed. "I need 3. I sat on the edge of the workbench. For what? A county demonstration. What kind of demonstration? Emergency supply movement, temporary shelters, generators, water, that sort of thing. When? 3 weeks. That's not much notice. It's plenty of notice. For a birthday tent, maybe." He went quiet for a second. Then he said, "This is a real contract, Cass." I could hear traffic behind him. A truck horn sounded, then his office door slammed. How real? $240,000. I looked at the truck above me. That was real. "What are you bidding?" "Event logistics and transport coordination. You don't have carrier authority. That's why I'm calling you." There it was. Gregory never liked beginning with the thing he wanted. He liked to walk around it until you felt rude for noticing. "What exactly do you need?" "Mountain Line as the qualified carrier. That's more than 3 trucks." "No, it isn't." "Yes, it is. It's 1 demonstration." "You said county contract. The demonstration is part of the award process. Send me the packet." "I'd rather explain it. Send me the packet first." He made a small sound into the phone. "You Army people love paperwork. I own a trucking company. Same difference." "No, Greg, it isn't." He sighed. "Come by the depot at noon. Email it. The file is too big. Then scan the pages that involve Mountain Line. I've already got lunch coming." I almost said no. The leak under my second truck needed attention. A regular customer had also asked whether I could take a profitable subcontract hauling refrigeration units that same week. I hadn't accepted yet because I was trying to keep 1 truck open for local work. Still, Gregory was my brother. That sentence had cost me money before. "I'll come at noon," I said. "I'm not agreeing to anything." "I know. You said that too fast. I'll see you at noon." He hung up. Lambert Transit Depot sat on Neville Street in a long brick building our father once rented space in. The name remained over the entrance even though the old transit business was gone. Gregory leased the office and the paved yard behind it. He liked the family name on the building. He mentioned it in meetings as if the sign came with equipment. I arrived 12 minutes early. Gregory was already eating at his desk. 2 plastic containers sat open beside a thick county bid packet. He pointed at the extra chair with his fork. "Chicken or beef?" I ate. "No, you didn't." He pushed the chicken toward me. My brother had always done that. He'd order for both of us, then act surprised if I wanted something different. I sat down but left the food closed. His office had framed event posters on every wall. In the largest photograph, Gregory stood beside the county fair entrance wearing a blue blazer. You couldn't see the crews who had worked overnight behind him. He tapped the bid packet. "This is the biggest opportunity I've had." "I believe you. We could both make good money." "How much is Mountain Line's portion?" "We'll get there. That's usually near the front." "You haven't even heard the plan." He opened the packet and turned several pages. There were colored tabs along the edge. Transport, security, vendors, demonstration, insurance. Gregory stopped at a diagram of the depot yard. "Readiness inspection is here," he said. "We stage the vehicles, county verifies capacity, then we conduct a short movement." "How short?" "About 8 miles. "Public roads?" "Some." "With guard vehicles?" "West Virginia Army National Guard is participating. It makes the whole demonstration stronger." "Who controls the convoy? They'll control their people. We'll control ours, and the civilian vehicles between them. We're still working that out." I looked up. "That should already be worked out. It's 3 weeks away. That's why it should already be worked out." He leaned back. "Can you listen before you start finding problems?" "I am listening." "No, you're inspecting. You asked to use my trucks. I asked you to partner with me. A partner gets paid and sees the plan. You'll be paid. How much?" He turned another page. I waited. Finally, he said, "28,000. For all 3 trucks? And drivers. Fuel included. That's low. It's 1 day. It's 1 day at the yard. What happens if you win?" He glanced at the bid packet. "That would be negotiated." "No." "What do you mean?" "No. I mean, Mountain Line doesn't help qualify a bid, then negotiate after you win." His fork touched the side of the container. "Mom said you'd do this." "Do what?" "Turn it into a money thing." "It is a money thing." "You called because I have something your company doesn't." He wiped his mouth. "You know, most people would be happy their brother was finally getting a break." I looked at the posters behind him. Gregory had been getting breaks his whole life. He just called them proof that he was smarter. When we were younger, he handled customers with our father. I cleaned equipment and checked loads. Gregory wore a clean shirt. I wore work gloves. Ruth still talked about those years the same way. Gregory had the business sense, she would say. Cassandra could always drive anything. She meant it as praise. At least I think she did. I pointed to the packet. "What does the county require from the carrier?" "Insurance, operating authority, equipment list, normal things, and consent." "Obviously." "Show me." His hand stayed on the page. "Gregory." He flipped toward the back. A single sheet had been marked with a yellow tab. The heading said, "Carrier Authorization Addendum." The language was plain enough. Lambert Event Logistics could coordinate the work, but the county would only pay if a qualified carrier signed that page. The carrier would be confirming that it had reviewed the plan and accepted operational responsibility for its trucks. There was one signature line, mine. The company name had already been typed beneath it, Mountain Line Hauling. I touched the bottom corner of the page. Who filled this in? It came that way. "The county knew you were using Mountain Line?" "I mentioned you at the pre-bid briefing. You mentioned me before asking me. I said I had access to a qualified local carrier. That's not the same thing." He gave me a tired look. "Cass, nobody thinks I own your company. That isn't what I asked." The procurement officer wanted to know whether bidders had transport capacity. I told them I had a relationship with Mountain Line. "You have a relationship with me, exactly." "No, not exactly." His jaw tightened. For the first time that day, he closed the packet. "You always do this. Read things? Make people prove they respect you." I sat still. That one landed because there was some truth in it. I did make people say what they wanted from me. I'd learned to do that after years of being handed a task with half the details and all the responsibility. But Gregory wasn't asking for help with a flat tire. He wanted my license, insurance, trucks, and name attached to a county contract. "Where's the full operations plan?" I asked. "Not finished." "Driver assignments?" "Not final." "Inspection records?" "My people are gathering them." "Communications?" "We have radios." That wasn't my question. He pushed the packet away. "You haven't changed." "I've changed plenty." "Mom thinks this could bring the family together." I almost laughed, but his face stopped me. "Did you call her before calling me?" "She called me." "How did she know?" "I told her about the bid, and you told her you needed Mountain Line. I told her I wanted you involved." That was another Gregory habit. He didn't ask Ruth to pressure me. He just gave her enough information to volunteer. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was Ruth. I let it ring. Gregory looked at the screen, then at me. "Answer her. You answer her. She wants to hear from you. She knows where I am." He lowered his voice. "Don't make this difficult. I'm asking basic questions. You're acting like I'm trying to steal something." I looked down at the addendum. My company name was already on it. The signature line was empty. "I'm not saying that," I said. "I'm saying my answer depends on the final plan. What does that mean? It means I'm willing to consider the demonstration." His shoulders relaxed. I raised one finger, under conditions. There it was again, the tension in his mouth. What conditions? "Mountain Line approves its drivers. Mountain Line inspects every civilian vehicle and trailer. I control my trucks during the movement. If something isn't safe, it doesn't roll. This isn't an army convoy. I didn't say it was. You're treating it like one. I'm treating it like loaded vehicles on public roads." He rubbed his forehead. "Can you please try to fit into the program? If the program is safe, it will be. Then my conditions won't be a problem." For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Rainwater ran down the office window. A forklift moved somewhere in the warehouse. Its backup alarm sounded 3 times. Gregory finally opened the packet again. "Fine," he said. "Review the plan. I need a copy. This packet stays here. Then scan it. I'll have someone do it. I also need the vehicle list, driver assignments, load weights, inspection dates, and communications plan. You'll have them." "When?" "End of the week. That gives us 2 weeks, more than enough. For you, maybe." He gave me a look, but I ignored it. I reached for the chicken container. "You said 28,000. His expression softened. He thought the hard part was over. "I can maybe move that a little. 36,000 for the demonstration, with a separate written subcontract if you win." His eyebrows went up. "That's ridiculous." "Then use another carrier. You know I can't find one that fast. That doesn't change my cost. Your cost or your price. Both matter." He stood and walked to the window. "Mom is going to think you're punishing me. Mom isn't bidding. She's 72. I don't want her worrying about us. Then don't call her about business." He turned around. "You make everything sound simple." "Some things are simple." He stared at me, then laughed once. "Fine. 36 if the demonstration passes and the county accepts the bid. No, payment for Mountain Line's work can't depend on you winning. Why would I pay that if I don't get the contract?" "Because my truck still moved." He began pacing behind his desk. I opened the chicken container. It had gone cold. Finally, he said, "Half before." "Half after the inspection. That works. Assuming you approve the plan." "Correct. And you'll sign the addendum if I approve the final plan." He pointed at me. "You can't wait until the last minute. I won't. The executed page is due at 4 o'clock during the readiness inspection. Then give me a safe plan before that." He slid the packet closer. For a moment, I thought he might tear out the addendum and hand it to me. Instead, he rested his palm on it. "I'll keep the county originals here." "That's fine. You don't need this page yet." "No." That answer surprised him. I didn't need the page. I was the sole owner of Mountain Line. Nobody else could sign for my company. He could keep the county packet in his office. The empty line still belonged to me. I ate 2 bites of cold chicken and stood. "Send the materials by Friday." I will. If you don't, my answer is no. You said you'd help. I said I'd review it. He looked toward the window again. My phone buzzed a second time. Ruth had left a voicemail. I put the phone in my pocket. At the door, Gregory said, "This could be good for both of us. I hope it is. And for Mom." I turned back. Leave her out of the contract. He didn't answer. Outside, the rain had slowed. I crossed the yard and climbed into my lead truck. Before starting the engine, I opened my company folder. I kept blank work orders, insurance copies, and inspection forms inside it. I added a fresh page and wrote the date at the top. Under it, I listed everything Gregory still owed me: drivers, trucks, trailers, loads, inspections, communications, payment terms. Then I added one final line: no authorization without my written approval. I took a picture of the page and emailed it to Gregory from the cab. His response arrived before I reached the end of Neville Street. "You worry too much." I pulled into an empty lot and read it again. Then I forwarded the same list to my company email, saved it in the county job folder, and called the refrigeration customer. "I may have one truck available after all," I said. The customer paused. "You told me Friday you were booked." "I may be. I need your deadline. Pick up next Thursday. Delivery by Saturday morning." I reached for the calendar on my dash. Which unit? The smaller trailer. 4 refrigeration units. I did the weight in my head. "I can take it." "You sure?" "No, but I can commit one truck." He laughed. "That sounds like you. It means you'll have one truck." We agreed on the rate. It was enough to cover most of that truck's payment for the month. When I hung up, I marked the dates in my calendar before Gregory could claim them. Then I listened to Ruth's voicemail. "Cassandra, call me when you leave your brother's office. He's trying to do something good for this family, and I hope you're not making it harder than it needs to be." That was the whole message. No hello. No question about my leaking truck. No mention of the inspection she knew I had scheduled that afternoon. I stared through the windshield. The traffic on Neville Street had backed up near the light. A delivery van blocked half the intersection. Nobody moved for almost a minute. I called her back. She answered immediately. "Well?" "Well, what? Did you agree to help him? I agreed to review the plan. Why can't you ever give a straight answer?" "That is a straight answer. He said you were talking about separate contracts. We own separate companies. Your brother and sister. That doesn't merge our insurance." Ruth breathed out slowly. My mother could make a breath sound disappointed. "Gregory says this county job could change everything. It could. He's worked towards something like this for years." "I know. And you have the trucks." "I know what I have." "Then what's the problem?" "I haven't seen the operations plan. He knows how to run an event. This isn't only an event. You always get caught in details. I watched the light turn green. The delivery van still didn't move. Details are what I'm being asked to sign. He wouldn't put you in a bad position." I didn't answer. Ruth lowered her voice. "You know your brother believes in you. That almost made me smile. Gregory believed I could solve problems. That wasn't the same as believing in me." "Come for supper tomorrow," she said. "Both of you. I have a late run." "What time?" "Probably 7. We'll eat at 7:30. Mom, I'll keep it warm." She hung up before I could refuse. The next day started before daylight. I drove a portable generator to a medical office outside town, returned to the yard, and spent 2 hours with a mechanic checking the airline on my second truck. It wasn't a serious repair. A fitting had worked loose. That should have been good news. Instead, I kept thinking about the county job while the mechanic tightened the line. 3 trucks sounded simple when Gregory said it. It wasn't. One driver had asked for that week off months earlier. Another was qualified on the truck but hadn't pulled the heavier trailer Gregory had described. My third regular driver had a clean record and plenty of experience, but he was already assigned to the refrigeration run. I could rearrange things. I usually did. At 6:45 that evening, I parked outside Ruth's house with a bakery pie on the passenger seat. The porch light was on. Gregory's SUV sat in the driveway. Ruth opened the door before I knocked. "You're late. It's 6:45. You said 7. You said 7:30. She looked at the pie. "Apple? Cherry." Gregory likes apple. I know. I handed it to her and took off my work jacket. Her house smelled like roast beef and furniture polish. The dining room table was already set. Gregory sat at one end with a glass of tea and his phone beside his plate. "Look who made it," he said. I said I would. "You said probably." Ruth carried the pie into the kitchen. I sat across from Gregory. "Did you send the materials? My office is assembling everything." "That wasn't my question. You'll have it by Friday. You promised that yesterday, and today isn't Friday." He smiled as if he'd won something. Ruth returned with the roast. She put it in front of Gregory. "Cut that for me." He stood and took the knife. There were 3 people at the table, but Ruth had made enough food for 8. She always did that when Gregory came over. She packed the leftovers into containers for him before dessert. When it was only me, she made soup. Gregory sliced the roast while telling her about the county demonstration. "We'll have the whole yard staged," he said. "Trucks, generators, temporary shelter equipment. County people will be there. Other vendors, too." Ruth looked pleased. "And the guard? They're bringing a convoy section." She turned to me. "You'll know how to deal with them. I know how to deal with most people. You know what I mean. I did. Whenever the army was useful, Ruth mentioned it. When it wasn't, she called it the time I was away." Gregory passed me a plate. I told her this could lead to more county work. "Maybe," I said. "It will." "He hasn't won yet," I told Ruth. Gregory set down the carving knife. "Thank you for that. It's an inspection and demonstration. Those exist for a reason. You could try sounding positive. I can be positive after I see the plan." Ruth sat at the head of the table. "Why are you two already arguing?" "We're not," Gregory said. I picked up my fork. Ruth looked at me. "Are you charging him the full amount?" "Yes." Her mouth tightened. "He's your brother, and I'm paying drivers. Surely you can reduce something." Gregory leaned back. I told her that. I already reduced it. He looked at me. "No, you didn't. My normal rate for 3 trucks with dedicated drivers would be higher. For one day? For the work you described." Ruth touched the edge of her napkin. "Your father would have found a way. That sentence had been used in our family for years. Our father would have found a way. Usually, it meant I was supposed to find one. When Ruth's water heater failed, I found a plumber. When the porch steps shifted, I repaired them. When Gregory needed extra equipment for the fall festival, I moved my schedule. Nobody meant harm every time. That was what made the pattern difficult to name. A person could thank you sincerely and still expect your next yes. I am finding a way, I said. It's called a written subcontract. Gregory shook his head. This is why people think veterans are rigid. Which people? He reached for his tea. People. Name one. Ruth interrupted. Please don't start. I didn't, I said. You know how he talks. That was another family rule. Gregory's words belonged to Gregory. My reaction belonged to everyone. He gave me a small smile over his glass. Cass knows I'm kidding. I know when you want something to sound like a joke. The room got quiet. Ruth picked up the serving spoon. Potatoes. We ate for several minutes without discussing the bid. Gregory told Ruth about a wedding his company had handled. The florist arrived late. The caterer used the wrong entrance. Gregory had fixed both problems. Ruth listened as if he were describing a rescue. What would they have done without you? She asked. He shrugged. Probably blamed each other. I waited for him to mention that Mountain Line had delivered the temporary flooring for that same wedding after his original hauler canceled. He didn't. I had driven it myself at 5 a.m. I didn't remind him. That was my part in the pattern. I kept waiting for people to remember things I refused to say. After dinner, Ruth brought out the cherry pie. She cut Gregory the first slice. This is good, he said after one bite. You don't even like cherry, she told him. I like this one. She smiled at me. There. You finally got something right. Her tone was light. I smiled back because that was easier. Then Ruth stood and carried plates into the kitchen. I followed her. You don't have to do that, she said when I turned on the faucet. You cooked. I have a dishwasher. You rinse everything first anyway. She handed me a towel. From the dining room, Gregory started a phone call. His voice shifted into the polished tone he used with clients. Ruth lowered hers. He needs this, Cassandra. I know he wants it. No, he needs it. Why? Business has been slow. That was new. How slow? She dried a plate without looking at me. He didn't say. Then how do you know? A mother knows. That's not an answer. He's had some cancellations. What kind? Events. Does he owe somebody? Her head came up. Why would you ask that? Because you said he needs the contract. I meant he needs a good opportunity. I turned off the water. Mom, did he ask you for money? No, she answered too quickly. I waited. She folded the towel over the oven handle. He borrowed a little in March. How much? That is between us. So he did ask. He paid some back. How much did he borrow? Cassandra, does he still owe you? Her face changed. Not much. Just enough. This isn't about money, she said. It sounds like it is. He had expenses before 2 clients canceled. What expenses? I don't know. Deposits, equipment, payroll. Did he show you anything? He's my son. So that's no. She opened the dishwasher harder than necessary. You don't have to examine every word I say. I'm trying to understand. You make understanding feel like an interrogation. I picked up my jacket from the kitchen chair. Ruth closed the dishwasher. You could help without making him feel small. I looked toward the dining room. Gregory was still on the phone, laughing with someone. He doesn't feel small. You don't know that. And he doesn't know how I feel. You've always been able to take care of yourself. There it was. She said it gently. That almost made it worse. Gregory needed encouragement. I needed nothing. He needed a chance. I needed to be less exacting. He borrowed money. I brought pie. I put on my jacket. How much? Ruth crossed her arms. It doesn't concern you. If this bid is supposed to bring the family together, it concerns me. She looked past me. 20,000. I kept my face still. When? March. And he's paid back? 5. So he owes you $15,000. He will pay it. From the county contract? I assume so. Did he say that? He said the contract would put everything right. That explained her phone call. It explained supper. It explained why she'd already decided my questions were the danger. You should have told me, I said. It wasn't your business. It became my business when you asked me to lower my rate. I asked you to help your brother with a debt I didn't know existed. Ruth pressed her lips together. You see everything as a transaction now. No, I see this transaction as a transaction. She turned away and wiped a clean section of the counter. I wanted her to turn back. I wanted her to say she understood why I was careful. I wanted her to ask what it would cost Mountain Line to hold 3 trucks. I wanted something from her I hadn't admitted I was still waiting for. Instead, she said, "Your father never kept score." That wasn't true. My father kept every receipt in labeled envelopes. He just didn't call it scorekeeping when Gregory owed him. I could have said that. I didn't. Gregory walked into the kitchen, slipping his phone into his pocket. What did I miss? Nothing, Ruth said. I looked at him. Mom told me about the loan. His eyes moved to her. Seriously? She thought I should understand why this matters. Ruth looked embarrassed. I didn't say it like that. Gregory picked up his keys. It's handled. You still owe her $15,000. I said it's handled. Does your bid budget include repayment? That has nothing to do with Mountain Line. It has something to do with the pressure you're putting on me. He gave Ruth a sharp look. She began rearranging dishes on the counter. I'm not pressuring you, Gregory said. You called Mom before you called me. I told her about an opportunity. You told her you needed my trucks. I told her I hoped you'd participate. That's pressure with better manners. His face hardened. Do you want to be part of this or not? I want the materials you promised. And then I'll give you an answer based on the plan. He laughed under his breath. You really can't just trust me. I looked at him for a long moment. Send the plan. He walked out without saying goodbye. Ruth followed him to the front door. I stayed in the kitchen. His SUV started outside. Its headlights moved across the wall, then disappeared. Ruth returned and stood in the doorway. You embarrassed him. There were 3 people here. That doesn't make it private. I pulled my truck keys from my pocket. Did you invite us both so I'd agree? I invited my children to supper. You asked about my rate before we finished eating. You know what? Forget it. She picked up the pie plate. Take this with you. You keep it. Gregory won't. He already had a slice. And you made your point. I wasn't sure what point she meant, that I'd brought the wrong pie, that I'd asked the wrong questions, that Gregory owed her money and I had made the fact uncomfortable. I took the pie because leaving it felt worse. On the porch, Ruth touched my sleeve. You'll help him, won't you? It wasn't an order this time. That was why I weakened. If the plan is safe, yes. She nodded and went inside. I sat in my truck with the pie on the passenger seat. For years, I'd told myself I helped because that was who I was. Reliable, capable, the one who didn't need chasing. Sitting there, I saw the part I hadn't wanted to see. I also helped because every favor bought me a place at that table. Not a better place, just a place. My phone lit up. An email had arrived from Gregory. The subject line said, County Materials. There was one attachment. It wasn't the operations plan. It was the carrier authorization addendum, separated from the rest of the packet. His message contained 6 words. Keep this safe until inspection day. I opened the attachment and checked the page. My company name was typed beneath the empty signature line. Nothing else had changed. I printed it when I reached my office. Then I placed the unsigned addendum in the company folder I kept inside my lead truck. After that, I emailed Gregory one question. Where is the plan I'm being asked to approve? His reply came 20 minutes later. Working on it. I read those 3 words twice. Then I opened the addendum again. It said I was confirming that Mountain Line had reviewed the operating plan. Not that I would review it later. Not that Gregory had explained it over lunch. Reviewed meant I had seen the whole thing. I wrote back, I need it by noon tomorrow. He didn't answer. The following morning, I finished a local equipment delivery and drove straight to the depot. Gregory's SUV wasn't there. The side door was unlocked. 2 men were loading folding barricades into a box truck. I knew both by sight. They worked Gregory's larger outdoor events. Is Gregory here? I asked. One of them shook his head. Meeting downtown. Did he leave a county operations folder? The man pointed toward the office. He said something was on the conference table. I thanked him and went inside. The conference room was smaller than its name suggested. It held a scratch table, 6 chairs, and a dry erase board nobody had cleaned in months. A blue folder sat in the middle. My name was written across the front. Inside, I found a vehicle list, a rough yard diagram, and a driver assignment sheet. The communications plan wasn't there. Neither were the inspection records or load weights. The vehicle list had 8 civilian units. 3 Mountain Line trucks were included. That was what we'd discussed. The trailer list was different. Gregory had included 4 trailers beside my 3 trucks. One was a temporary stage trailer. Another carried generators. The third held water tanks. The last was listed as general supply. I read the driver assignment sheet. My regular driver for the refrigeration job had been assigned to the generator trailer. I had never given Gregory his name. I checked the second line. Another Mountain Line driver was assigned to a Lambert box truck. A Lambert employee I barely knew was assigned to my second truck. That wasn't happening. The last name on the sheet appeared twice. Once beside the water trailer and again beside the general supply unit. I laid all 3 pages side by side. At first, I thought it was a draft made by someone who didn't understand the fleet. Then I noticed the date in the bottom corner. The sheet had been created 4 days before Gregory called me. I took a picture. Then I took pictures of every page in the folder. I was still doing that when Gregory walked in. He stopped in the doorway. What are you doing here? You left this for me. I was going to bring it over. You said it was here. I didn't say you could walk into my office. The outside door was unlocked. That doesn't make this your building. I closed the folder. You're right. That seemed to surprise him. I pushed the assignment sheet across the table. Who made this? He glanced at it. My transport coordinator. Who is that? I'm handling it right now. So you made it. I put together a preliminary list. You used my driver's names before asking me. They've worked my events through Mountain Line. I know. Then you know you don't assign them. He pulled out a chair but didn't sit. It's a planning document. It's dated before our meeting. I had to show capacity. You showed people and equipment you hadn't secured. I showed a workable concept. One driver is listed twice. That will be corrected. One of your employees is assigned to my truck. He has a commercial license. What class? Gregory looked toward the hall. I don't keep that in my head. Has he driven that type of truck? You can check him. I will. Where's his file? I don't have personnel files sitting around for anyone to read. If he's operating under my authority, I need his license and driving record. He isn't operating under anything yet. Then don't put him beside my truck. Gregory dropped into the chair. You wanted the materials. These are the materials. These are part of them. The rest isn't ready. You told the county you had capacity. I do. No, you have names on a page. He leaned forward. Why are you working against me? I'm trying to make this real. It is real. Then give me real assignments. He pushed the folder toward me. Fix them. I looked at him. That's what you wanted, isn't it? Control over your trucks, so make whatever changes you need. What about the other 5 vehicles? Review those, too. Who owns them? Different vendors. Have they agreed? Yes. In writing? His silence lasted too long. Some paperwork is pending, he said. I sat back. The county demonstration was less than 2 weeks away. Gregory had a yard diagram and a list of names. He was calling it an operating plan. Where is the bid packet? I asked. In my office. I need to see the transport section. You saw the relevant page. I saw the addendum. That's the relevant page. No, I need to know what you promised. He stood again. County procurement has the bid. You kept a copy. I'm not handing over my entire proposal. I don't need your pricing or vendor rates. Then work from the assignment sheet. I can't approve a plan I haven't seen. He rubbed both hands over his face. You know what your problem is? I'm sure you're about to tell me. You don't understand how civilian bidding works. I looked around the conference room. A cracked plastic clock hung above the dry erase board. It had stopped at 11:12. I've held county subcontracts before. As a hauler. Yes. Not as the lead company. No. So let me do my job. I'm asking you to let me do mine. He stared at me. Neither of us moved. Then he said, the county procurement officer is holding a vendor call tomorrow morning. You can ask your questions there. That's the first I've heard about it. It was added yesterday. What time? 9. Send me the link. It's mainly for primary bidders. You're asking me to sign the carrier authorization. He tapped the assignment sheet. I said I'd send it. When? Today. I put the folder under my arm. I'm taking this copy. It's yours. I also need the names and contact details for every driver you want Mountain Line to qualify. That's excessive. It's required. By who? By me. He gave a short laugh. You enjoy that, don't you? What? Being the person who says no. I haven't said no. You haven't said yes either. That depends on the work. He stepped aside so I could pass. As I reached the doorway, he said, Mom told me you questioned her about the loan. She brought it up. She didn't owe you an explanation. You're right. You did. He followed me into the hall. My finances have nothing to do with this. Then stop using the contract to promise her repayment. I told her I'd take care of it. With money from a job you haven't won. That's how business works. No, that's how hope works. His face went red. One of the men near the side door looked toward us. Gregory noticed and lowered his voice. You want me to fail. I shifted the folder against my hip. If I wanted that, I'd sign whatever you put in front of me. I walked out before he could answer. In my truck, I photographed the assignment sheet again in better light. Then I called my refrigeration driver. He answered on the second ring. "Morning, boss." "Did Gregory contact you about the county demonstration?" "No." "Did anyone from Lambert Event Logistics?" "No." "Why? Your name is on their driver's sheet." There was a pause. "For what?" "A generator trailer." "I'm doing refrigeration that week." "I know. Did they move the date?" "No." He sounded irritated now. "I didn't agree to drive for him." "I know that too." "Then why am I listed?" "I'm finding out." He lowered his voice. "Is this that big county thing? How do you know about it?" "Gregory mentioned it at the fall market meeting." "When?" "Last week." That stopped me. "What did he say?" "Just that Lambert was putting together the transport side. He asked whether I was still driving for you." "What did you tell him?" "Yes." "Anything else?" "No." "He said he might need experienced people." "Did he offer you work directly?" "No." "Did he ask about your schedule?" "No." I looked through the windshield at the depot office. Gregory had collected my driver's name in casual conversation. Then he'd used it to fill an empty space. "Thanks," I said. "You're still assigned to refrigeration." "Good. If anyone calls about the county job, send them to me. Will do." I ended the call and wrote down the time. That was one inconsistency confirmed. The assignment sheet didn't reflect agreements. It reflected whatever made the proposal look complete. I still didn't know whether Gregory had shown that exact sheet to the county. I didn't know what he'd written in the transport section. I didn't know whether the other drivers had agreed to anything. But I knew mine hadn't. I emailed Gregory from the truck. "My driver did not authorize this assignment. Remove his name. Send all remaining driver qualifications before tomorrow's call." He replied almost immediately. "I told you the list was preliminary." I wrote back. "Then mark it preliminary and stop presenting names as assigned." The typing dots appeared. They disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, he sent one sentence. "You're creating problems before they exist." I saved the exchange. Back at my office, I called the other Mountain Line driver on the sheet. She hadn't spoken to Gregory either. She was available that week, but she had only agreed to be on call for me. "I can work it," she said, "if you want me there." "I don't know yet." "What's the load?" "That's one of the things I'm waiting for." She laughed once. "That sounds organized. Don't commit to anyone. I won't. Send me a picture of your current license and medical card anyway. You already have them." "I know. Send them again." They arrived within 5 minutes. I checked both dates and added the copies to the county folder. That small task felt better than it should have. One driver was available, properly qualified, and waiting on my direction. One line on Gregory's sheet could become real. The others could not. At 2 that afternoon, an email arrived with the vendor call information. The county procurement officer's name wasn't included. The invitation simply listed Raleigh County Procurement. Gregory added a note above the link. "Please listen more than you talk." I forwarded the invitation to my company account and put the call on my calendar. Then I began rebuilding the assignment sheet. I removed the refrigeration driver. I moved my available driver back to a Mountain Line truck. I left every unverified position blank. By 4, half the page was empty. I sent the corrected version to Gregory. He called before I could close the file. "You gutted it." I corrected what I can confirm. "You left 4 driver spaces blank. Send qualified drivers. We have drivers." "Then send their information. You're making me look unprepared. This document is between us. It won't stay between us if you carry that attitude into tomorrow's call. I'm going to ask what the carrier is responsible for. I already told you. No. You told me I'd be paid. What else do you need?" The truth would save time. He went quiet. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. "This bid has to work. That doesn't fill the blank spaces. I have payroll next month. I have vendor deposits out. Mom is watching every dollar because you upset her. You borrowed her money, and I'm trying to repay it. Then let me find out what you've committed to." He took a breath. "I'll send the driver files tonight." "All of them?" "The ones I have. That answer is the problem." He ended the call. At 7:30, I was still in my office. No driver files had arrived. I opened the county addendum and read the signature language again. Then I compared it with Gregory's assignment sheet. His list treated my people as available. His addendum required me to swear they were ready. Those were not the same thing. I had begun the week trying to decide whether I could help my brother win. By that evening, I was trying to find out how much of his bid already depended on my silence. At 8:12, 4 driver files appeared in my inbox. 2 licenses matched the assigned vehicles. 1 did not. The 4th file contained only an expired medical card and a phone number. Beneath the attachments, Gregory had written another message. This should be enough for tomorrow. I printed the files, placed them beside the half-empty assignment sheet, and circled the first mismatch in red. The next morning, I joined the county call 5 minutes early. Gregory was already connected. His camera showed the conference room at the depot. He wore a white shirt and the blue jacket from his event photographs. He sent me a private message. Let me handle introductions. I didn't answer. Several vendors joined. Most kept their cameras off. The county procurement officer spoke from a plain office with a gray wall behind her. She began with the schedule. Readiness inspection will begin at 1 o'clock. Vehicle placement must be complete by noon. The demonstration will start only after the safety review. I wrote each time on my pad. Final bid documents are due by 4 o'clock that afternoon, she continued. That includes outstanding vendor certifications and carrier authorization. Gregory leaned toward his camera. Lambert Event Logistics understands. The officer nodded. She explained the route. The civilian vehicles would leave the depot, travel several miles, turn through an industrial access road, then return to the yard. The guard vehicles would participate as a separate convoy element. One vendor asked about weather. Another asked where to park employee vehicles. I waited until the officer requested transport questions. Then I unmuted. This is Cassandra Lambert with Mountain Line Hauling. Gregory looked down at something off camera. I continued. I need clarification on the carrier addendum. Is the carrier approving only its own trucks or the full civilian transport plan? The qualified carrier is accepting operational responsibility for all vehicles moving under its authority. So any driver covered by that authorization must be qualified through the carrier. Yes. And the carrier reviews the loads, inspection status, and vehicle assignments before signing. That is correct. I looked at the expired medical card beside my keyboard. What happens if the lead bidder submits the addendum without the carrier's approval? The officer's face stayed neutral. The carrier must execute its own authorization. Can the lead bidder sign on the carrier's behalf? No. Can another employee of the carrier sign? That depends on the company's authorized signatories. I'm Mountain Line's sole owner and sole signatory. Then it requires your signature. Gregory unmuted. We understand that. Mountain Line is our proposed carrier and we're completing the operational review now. The word proposed mattered. I wrote it down. The officer continued. Let me make one point clear for everyone. The county is not awarding transport work based on a future promise to locate authority. The authority must be in place when the final documents are due. A vendor asked, if it isn't? The submission is non-responsive. The call went quiet. The officer explained it in ordinary language. The county could not award or pay the contract if the required carrier authorization was missing. The lead bidder could not fix it after the deadline. I looked at the time written on my pad, 4 o'clock. Gregory cleared his throat. Our addendum will be complete. He said it calmly. He never looked at the camera. I unmuted again. Mountain Line's approval remains conditional on the final safety review. Gregory's eyes lifted. The procurement officer nodded. That is the carrier's decision. Nothing dramatic happened. Nobody argued. But the answer settled the first question I'd been trying to get Gregory to answer. He wasn't asking me to provide 3 trucks for one day. He was asking me to make his entire transport operation eligible. Without my signature, his bid stopped. With it, the responsibility moved onto my company. The officer moved to equipment placement. I listened and took notes. Near the end, she said every bidder needed to submit a current readiness schedule by the following Wednesday. That gave us 6 days. Gregory sent another private message. No more questions. I saved a screenshot. When the call ended, my phone rang immediately. I let it ring once before answering. "What was that?" he asked. "A vendor call." "You made it sound like I'm using your company without permission. You called Mountain Line your proposed carrier. That's accurate. You emphasized conditional. Because it is. Everyone already knows documents are pending. Good. Then why say it? Because you said the addendum would be complete. It will be. If I approve the plan." He exhaled hard. "You could have discussed that with me privately." "I have. You blindsided me. I asked questions about the page you gave me. You asked what happens if I fail. I asked what happens if the addendum isn't signed. Same thing." That was the first completely honest thing he'd said about the bid. I looked at the driver files spread across my desk. "Send me the full transport section." "No." "Then find another carrier." Silence. I didn't repeat myself. After a few seconds, he said, "You're threatening me now?" "I'm setting a boundary. Over draft driver assignments. Over responsibility. You heard the officer. You control your trucks." "No." I heard her say, "Mountain Line accepts operational responsibility for every civilian vehicle moving under my authority." That's standard language. It still means something. I have vendors for the other vehicles. Then send their records. I will. And the full plan. Another silence. Finally, he said, "Come to the depot at 2. Will the bid copy be there?" "Yes." "Can I copy the transport section?" "You can review it. I need a working copy." "Fine." That was the first deliberate request he had fully granted. It should have made me feel better. Instead, I checked the calendar. 6 days to the readiness schedule. Less than 2 weeks to the inspection. 8 civilian units. At least 4 drivers I hadn't verified. I called my refrigeration customer before leaving. "I need to confirm one detail," I said. "Is your delivery still Saturday morning? It may move to Friday night. That helps. Actually, I was going to ask whether you have a second truck. For another load? Same pickup. 6 more units." I looked at the county dates. The second truck would make the refrigeration job worth almost as much as Gregory's demonstration, with less exposure and fewer moving parts. "When do you need an answer?" "Tomorrow by noon. I'll call you before then." At the depot, Gregory had placed the county bid packet on the conference table. He stayed in the room while I reviewed it. The transport section was 31 pages. Most were equipment descriptions and vendor declarations. A short section near the middle described Lambert Event Logistics as the coordinator. Mountain Line was identified as the proposed qualified carrier. That was allowed. Then I reached the capacity table. 3 Mountain Line trucks were listed by unit number. All 4 trailers were grouped beneath them. The table didn't explain which truck pulled which trailer. It simply showed enough combined capacity for the demonstration. I turned to Gregory. "Who gave you my unit numbers?" "You did. When?" "You've invoiced me." That was true. The numbers appeared on every invoice. You used billing records to fill the bid. I used information I already had. Did you verify availability? I called you. After you submitted this? It was a preliminary submission. I checked the date. The bid had been delivered the morning before he called. I wrote that down. Gregory watched me. There's nothing improper about naming a proposed carrier. I know. Then stop looking at me like that. I'm looking at the dates. You agreed to review the plan. After you built the bid around my trucks. I knew you'd help. No, you assumed. Was I wrong? I didn't answer immediately. That bothered him more than a no. I turned another page. The proposed driver count was 8. The files he'd sent covered 4. 1 file was incomplete. 1 driver didn't match the assigned vehicle. Where are the other driver records? Coming. From who? Vendors. Which vendors? He named 2 local equipment companies. I recognized both. Neither was a carrier. They're supplying trailers, I said, and drivers. Qualified for what? For their equipment. That doesn't automatically qualify them under my authority. You can approve them if they meet the requirements. There you go again. Doing my job? Finding a reason to hold everything up. I turned to the route page. The diagram showed the civilian units leaving in one line. Guard vehicles entered from a separate section of the yard. There were no vehicle intervals marked, no halt points, no instructions for what happened if the civilian and guard elements became separated. A note at the bottom said radio coordination to be finalized. Where's the communications plan? We're testing radios Monday. With who? My crew. What radios? Handheld units. Which frequency? I don't know. Who does? The supplier. I closed the bid packet. I need every vehicle and trailer in the yard Monday. That's not possible. Then Tuesday. The stage trailer is on an event until Wednesday. The readiness schedule is due Wednesday. I know. When were you planning to inspect it? The owner said it's maintained. That wasn't my question. Gregory's chair scraped the floor. You don't need to inspect every bolt. I need current inspection records and actual weights. The load weights are estimates. Based on what? Equipment specifications. What about placement? We'll balance the loads. Who will? My crew. Has your crew loaded water tanks before? They load equipment every week. Water moves. They'll be secured. How? He looked at the packet. I waited. Ratchet straps, he said. What rating? For God's sake, Cassandra, that answer shouldn't be difficult. He stood and walked toward the window. I reopened the folder to the equipment list. Here's what I can do. I'll inspect available vehicles Monday. I'll review the stage trailer Wednesday morning. I need complete driver files before then. The schedule is due Wednesday. Then you have a deadline. We have a deadline. No, you have to produce the information. I have to review it. He turned from the window. And if you don't like something, I give you a correction. And if I disagree, Mountain Line doesn't authorize it. His face went still. There it was, the boundary in plain words. He walked back to the table and put both palms on the bid packet. You'd let me lose $240,000 over a paperwork issue? Don't turn a safety issue into paperwork. There is no safety issue. We don't know that yet. You don't know that. That's what an inspection is for. He pulled the packet toward himself. For a moment, I thought he would take back the transport pages. Instead, he removed them from the binder and handed them to me. Review it all. I plan to. And give me a list by Monday. I'll give you findings after I see the equipment. I need time to fix things, then have the vehicles ready. He looked exhausted. I almost softened. That was my habit too. Gregory pushed until I held the line. Then his frustration made me feel cruel for having one. I put the transport section in my folder. Have the drivers there Monday morning. What time? 8. That's too early. 8:30. 9. 8:30. He nodded. On my way out, I stopped beside one of the box trucks listed in the plan. Its inspection sticker was current. The tires looked sound. The rear door closed properly. One vehicle was ready. I took a picture and marked it verified. That small check mattered. I wasn't looking for reasons to reject the job. I was looking for what could safely move. My phone rang as I crossed the yard. It was the refrigeration customer. I know you said tomorrow, he told me, but another carrier wants the second load. I need an answer tonight. I looked back at Gregory's office. He stood behind the window watching me. If I committed 2 trucks to refrigeration, Gregory couldn't show the capacity he had already promised. If I held them for him, I might lose a clean job for a plan that still had empty driver spaces. What time tonight? I asked. 6. I'll call you by 5. I climbed into my lead truck and placed the copied transport section beside the unsigned addendum. For the first time, I had the part of Gregory's bid that depended on me. I also had 4 hours to decide what that access was going to cost. I called the refrigeration customer at 4:52. I can give you 1 truck, I said. You can't do the second load? Not without breaking another commitment. The other carrier wants both. I looked at the empty driver spaces on Gregory's sheet. If you need to give them both, I understand. He was quiet for a moment. You've always been reliable. I'm still reliable. I didn't mean it that way. I know. He said he would keep the original load with me. The other carrier could take the additional units. When we hung up, I wrote the lost amount beside the county dates on my calendar. I didn't do it to punish Gregory later. I did it because holding trucks had a cost, even when no tires moved. Monday morning, I reached the depot at 8. The paved yard was still damp from overnight rain. I parked my lead truck outside the lineup near the fence and carried my clipboard across the lot. Gregory had assembled 6 civilian vehicles. 2 were mine. The third Mountain Line truck was returning from a weekend delivery and wouldn't arrive until noon. The stage trailer was still unavailable. The water trailer stood near the warehouse. 2 square tanks had been strapped to its deck. A generator trailer sat behind one of my trucks. Gregory came out holding 2 cups of coffee. "You're early," I said 8:30. It's 8:10. I wanted to walk the yard first. He offered me a cup. I took it. "What do you want to start with?" he asked. "Drivers. Vehicles are right here. Drivers move them." He looked toward the warehouse. 4 men and 1 woman waited inside near the open door. My available driver stood with them. 5? I asked. 1 called out. "Which one?" "The water trailer driver." "When will he be here?" "He won't." "Who's replacing him?" "We'll move someone." "Who?" "Let's get through the people who showed up." That was reasonable, so I let it go. I set up at a folding table inside the warehouse. One at a time, I checked licenses, medical cards, and recent driving experience. The first 2 matched their assigned vehicles. The third was the employee Gregory had placed in my second truck. He handed me his license. It wasn't the right class. "Have you driven a combination vehicle?" I asked. "I drive the box truck. Anything with a trailer?" "Small utility trailers." "Not this truck?" He glanced toward Gregory. Greg said it was about the same. "It isn't." The man looked embarrassed. I kept my voice even. "You didn't do anything wrong. I'm moving you back to the box truck." Gregory stepped closer. "He can handle it. His license doesn't cover it. He's driven heavy equipment. That doesn't change the license. We need someone in that seat. Then we need a qualified driver." The employee handed me his card again. "Am I done?" "For now, yes." "Thank you." He walked toward the warehouse door. Gregory waited until he was out of earshot. "You made him feel incompetent. I told him he wasn't licensed for 1 vehicle. In front of everyone. Everyone is being checked. You could have pulled him aside." I spoke quietly. "That's not the point." "What is the point?" "The point is, these people work for me. Then don't assign them to equipment they can't operate." He walked away with his coffee. My available driver sat down next. Her documents were current. She had driven both Mountain Line truck types and the generator trailer. "I can put you on the generator," I said. "What about my original truck?" "I may need to move another driver." She nodded. "Whatever you need." That solved 1 position and opened another. I marked the change. After the driver review, I moved outside and started on the vehicles. The first box truck was the one I'd checked Thursday. I confirmed the records, lights, tires, and emergency equipment. It passed. The second had a cracked mirror mount. The mirror itself was intact, but the bracket moved when I touched it. I wrote it down. Gregory looked over my shoulder. "That mirror has been like that for months. That isn't reassuring. It doesn't move on the road. It moved in my hand. We'll tighten it." "Good." I marked it for correction. The next vehicle had a fire extinguisher with an expired service tag. The driver replaced it from the warehouse while I continued. That was how inspections were supposed to work. Find something, correct it, move on. When I reached the generator trailer, I checked the registration and manufacturer plate. Then I read the generator's data label. The numbers didn't work. I checked them again. "What?" Gregory asked. "How much fuel is in it?" "Half a tank." "What's the tank capacity?" He looked toward one of his employees. The employee called the equipment vendor. We waited beside the trailer while the phone rang. The answer came back. The generator's base weight was higher than the figure in Gregory's plan. With half a tank of fuel, cables, wheel chocks, and the metal ramp stored along the side, the load exceeded the trailer's rated capacity. By how much? Gregory asked. At least 1,100 pounds. He stared at the generator. That can't be right. It is. The vendor brought it on this trailer. That doesn't make the trailer suitable. They use it all the time. Then they've been overloading it all the time. He took my clipboard. I let him read the numbers. This is a demonstration, he said. It's traveling 8 miles. Weight doesn't care. We're not crossing the state. The axle doesn't know that. He handed back the clipboard. Can we drain the fuel? Not enough. Remove the ramp and cables? Still not enough. So what do you want? A heavier trailer or a smaller generator? The county expects this generator, then get a heavier trailer. By Wednesday? Yes. He looked at the sky as if a trailer might drop from it. This is what I'm talking about, he said. One number, and suddenly the whole plan has to change. One number keeps the wheels under the load. He turned away. The water trailer was worse in a different way. The tanks were empty when I arrived. Gregory's load sheet listed their empty weight. It did not include the water. I stood on the trailer deck and read the capacity label on the first tank. How full will these be? I asked. Full enough to demonstrate. That isn't a measure. 3/4. Both? Yes. I did the calculation on my pad. Water was heavy. 2 tanks at 3/4 capacity added thousands of pounds. The combined load stayed within the trailer's total rating, but the planned placement put too much weight behind the rear axle. Who positioned these? I asked. My crew. Using what layout? They centered them. They centered the deck space. That isn't the same as balancing the load. Gregory climbed onto the trailer. They look centered. I pointed to the axle position. Too much weight sits behind it. We can move them. Yes. How far? I need the full tank specifications and the truck's limits. He looked down at the straps. What about these? Not enough. There are 4 per tank. I'm not counting straps. I'm checking their rating and anchor points. He stepped off the trailer. Are you saying we need different straps too? I'm saying I need to read the tags. 2 tags were worn blank. 1 strap had a cut near the hook. I lifted it for him to see. He pressed his thumb against the damaged section. That happened in storage. It still happened. Fine. Replace 1 strap. Replace 3. I can't verify the other 2. His phone rang. He answered and walked away. I finished the inspection without him. By noon, I had 1 vehicle fully approved. 2 could pass with simple corrections. 1 driver assignment was fixed. 2 remained open. The generator needed a different trailer. The water load needed to be repositioned and secured again. The missing stage trailer still had no current inspection record in the file. My 3rd truck arrived at 12:20. I checked it myself, then moved it beside the other mountain line unit. Both passed. That gave Gregory 2 usable trucks in the yard. It gave me something too. The problems weren't imaginary. They weren't my mistrust turning ordinary details into threats. The records and equipment confirmed them. Gregory returned while I was photographing the generator plate. Mom is bringing lunch, he said. Why? Because I told her we'd be working through noon. You called her? She called me. What did you tell her? That you found some issues. Did you tell her what they were? I told her you're being thorough. The way he said thorough gave the word another meaning. Ruth arrived 15 minutes later with sandwiches and a large thermos. She set everything on the folding table. This looks impressive, she said, looking across the yard. It will, Gregory told her. She smiled at me. Are you getting him straightened out? We're working through the list. Gregory opened the sandwich bag. She says the generator trailer is too small. Ruth looked at the trailer. It looks large to me. It's rated by weight, I said. I'm sure you know. She poured coffee into a plastic cup. But there's always something, isn't there? Gregory looked down at his sandwich. I understood then why he'd mentioned lunch. He wanted Ruth to see the work, not the records or the damaged strap, just the line of vehicles and me standing in front of it with a clipboard. What does that mean? I asked. Ruth shrugged. You've always noticed what other people miss. That's useful here. I said it was. Her tone stayed pleasant. I picked up my clipboard. The generator is at least 1,100 pounds over the trailer rating. One driver doesn't have the correct license. The water load needs to be moved. The stage trailer's inspection record is missing. Ruth looked at Gregory. He folded the top of his sandwich wrapper. Most of it is easy to correct. Yes, I said, if it gets corrected. Ruth handed me a cup of coffee. Then you'll help him correct it. I'm giving him the list. You know what I mean. I did. She wanted me to absorb the problem. Find the trailer, find the driver, rebuild the load, make the radios work. That was the role I had trained everyone to expect. I set the coffee down. I'll identify what mountain line requires. Gregory controls his vendors and crew, his head lifted. You said you'd review the plan. I am. You know where to get a heavier trailer. So do you. My vendor is the one who brought this. Then tell the vendor it doesn't pass. Ruth looked between us. Why are you making this about who does what? Because that's exactly what the authorization does. Gregory crumpled his wrapper. I'll handle the trailer. Good. And the straps. Good. But I need your help with the driver assignments. I'll review qualified people. I won't recruit your crew. He gave a small nod. It wasn't agreement. It was calculation. I spent the afternoon writing the correction list. I kept each item plain. Replace the generator trailer, reposition the water tanks, replace 3 damaged or unreadable straps, repair the mirror bracket, provide current inspection records for the stage trailer, provide complete driver qualifications, conduct a radio test with every civilian driver. At the bottom, I wrote that mountain line authorization remained pending until the corrections were verified. I signed only the inspection line, showing I had performed the review. The carrier approval line remained blank. I gave Gregory a copy and kept the original on my clipboard. He read it beside my truck. You want all of this done by Wednesday morning? The schedule is due Wednesday. You know that isn't realistic. Then request more time from the county. That makes us look weak. An overloaded trailer looks worse. He folded the copy once. I'll have it done. Call me before anything is substituted. He walked away without answering. At 5:15, the refrigeration customer texted me. The other carrier had taken the second load. I closed the message and checked the county folder. The unsigned addendum was still there. So was the original checklist. Across the yard, Gregory stood with one of his employees, reading my corrections. Then he took a pen from his pocket and began marking things out. I crossed the yard toward him. What are you changing? Gregory put his pen against the paper. I'm shortening it. That's my inspection checklist. It's my copy. The findings don't change because it's your copy. He held the page up. Replace generator trailer. Reposition tanks, replace straps. Repair mirror. Half of this can be handled without turning it into a federal project. Then handle it. I am. By crossing it out? By separating required work from your preferences. I took the paper from his hand. He had drawn lines through the driver qualifications, the radio test, and the inspection records for the stage trailer. Beside the generator trailer, he had written vendor confirms suitable. Did the vendor provide a different rating? I asked. They confirmed they used that trailer. That wasn't the finding. It's their equipment. It will be moving under my authority. We're still discussing that. No. That's the entire reason I'm here. Ruth stood near the folding table with the empty thermos in her hands. Gregory looked toward her, then lowered his voice. You're embarrassing me in front of my employees. Then stop editing my work in the yard. I said I would handle the corrections. You said you'd complete them. Same thing. It isn't. He took the copy back. I'll send you the revised list tonight. I don't need a revised list. The county does. The county needs a readiness schedule. That doesn't give you permission to change my findings. He tucked the folded page into his pocket. You can review the final setup Wednesday. With the stage trailer arriving that morning, it will be fine. You don't know that. You don't know it won't. I looked at him. That was the difference between us. He thought uncertainty belonged to whoever spoke with the most confidence. I thought uncertainty was something you checked. Ruth came closer. Can we all take a breath? I'm breathing, Gregory said. She touched my arm. He's trying to meet a deadline. So am I. You're both tired. It's 5 in the afternoon. That isn't what I meant. Gregory walked back toward the warehouse. Ruth waited until he was out of hearing. Could you give him 1 day without correcting him in front of people? I corrected a vehicle plan. You know how it looks. How does it look? Like you're in charge. Of my trucks I am. He owns the primary company. That doesn't make him the carrier. She shifted the thermos to her other hand. Why does every conversation with you become a question of authority? Because everybody wants mine until I use it. Ruth's face closed. I regretted the line as soon as I said it. Not because it was untrue, because she heard it as disrespect. You've always thought we don't appreciate you, she said. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She walked to her car. I watched her put the thermos on the back seat. Before she got in, she looked at me across the roof. Your brother doesn't have 18 years of people teaching him how to prepare for every possible problem. No, but he had 3 weeks to ask for help. He did ask. He asked after he filed the bid. She shook her head and drove away. I returned to my truck. The county folder was open on the passenger seat. The original checklist lay on my clipboard. I checked it against the photographs from the inspection. Nothing on that page was exaggerated. I knew that. Still, I sat there longer than I needed to. At 6:10, Gregory emailed his revised version. He had placed the Lambert Event Logistics logo at the top. Under it, the document said Joint Carrier Readiness List. My name wasn't on the page, but Mountain Line appeared in the first paragraph. The generator requirement now said vendor equipment confirmation pending. The water tanks would be positioned before movement. The 3 damaged straps had become inspect tie-downs on demonstration day. The stage trailer inspection record was no longer mentioned. The radio test said handheld radios available. The incomplete driver files had disappeared entirely. At the bottom, he had added a line. Carrier representative to verify final readiness on site. He had turned each correction into something that could wait until the last minute. Then he had made me responsible for verifying it. I called him. He answered with, "Before you start, the schedule is realistic now. It's incomplete. It reflects what will be done. No, it reflects what you hope will be done." The vendor confirmed the generator trailer. They confirmed they use it. Did you send them the weight calculation? They know their equipment. Did you send it? No. Then nothing was resolved. I am not asking a trailer vendor to defend their business to my sister. You're asking my company to carry their risk. There is no risk. There's an overload. According to your math. According to the labels on the equipment. He made a frustrated sound. You know what? This is the military thing again. What military thing? Everything has to be exact. Every box checked. Every possible mistake treated like disaster. A driver's license isn't a preference. I'll get a qualified driver. When? Before the demonstration. The schedule is due Wednesday. The county doesn't need every driver's life history. It needs a carrier willing to authorize them. And you can do that Wednesday, not if I don't have the records. He went quiet. I could hear a television in the background. Then he said, "You were supposed to help me. I have spent days helping you." "No, you've spent days proving I need help." I closed my eyes. "What do you want from me right now? I want you to approve the readiness schedule." "I won't. It isn't the final authorization. It uses Mountain Line's name as the proposed carrier, and it says the carrier will verify the plan on site. You will. If the corrections are complete, they will be. Then keep them on the list." His voice sharpened. "Because they don't all belong there." "Which ones?" "The radio test, the stage trailer record, some of the driver paperwork. Those are administrative. The communications plan was unfinished in the bid. We have radios. A radio is equipment. It isn't a plan. You hear yourself, right? Yes. You sound like we're moving through hostile territory. We're moving mixed vehicles on public roads. Somebody has to know how to stop them. The route is 8 miles. And you keep saying that because you keep acting like distance removes responsibility." He went silent again. When he spoke, his voice was quieter. "If I submit your version, the county will think we aren't ready. You aren't ready. That's your opinion. It's my inspection. Fine. Don't approve the schedule. I'll submit the operating update myself. Without Mountain Line's approval, it's my bid. Mark Mountain Line as pending. Everybody knows it's pending. Then write it." He hung up. The next morning, I woke before my alarm. I checked my email from bed. Gregory had copied me on his submission to the county. The revised readiness schedule was attached. Mountain Line was still listed as the proposed carrier. At the end of his message, he had written that final carrier authorization would be executed at the readiness inspection. He didn't say conditional. He didn't say pending corrections. He wrote it as if the signature was a scheduled task. I saved the email and got ready for work. At 8:15, the refrigeration customer called. His voice told me the answer before he said it. "I've got a problem." The pickup changed? No. The warehouse doesn't want 2 carriers. I sat behind my desk. "You already confirmed my load." "I know." "You told me the other carrier was taking only the additional units. That was the plan. They offered to take everything for one combined rate." I looked at my calendar. "So you're canceling my truck. I'm sorry. When did you decide?" "Late yesterday, after I turned down the second load. I didn't know they'd make the offer." I believed him. That didn't put the job back on my schedule. "What about the cancellation charge?" I asked. "We never signed the work order." He was right. We had agreed by phone. I'd held the truck because we'd worked together before. "I should have sent it," I said. "I should have asked." Neither of us had much else to say. The original load would have paid $6,400. After fuel and driver pay, Mountain Line would have cleared a little over $4,000. The second load would have nearly doubled that. Now both were gone. I thanked him for calling and ended the conversation. My driver arrived 10 minutes later. She stood in the office doorway holding her travel mug. "What time do you want me Thursday?" The refrigeration run canceled. Her shoulders dropped. "All of it?" "All of it." "What happened?" "They consolidated with another carrier." She looked at the county calendar on the wall. "So I'm doing Gregory's thing." "I don't know yet." She nodded slowly. I still owed her something for holding the dates. She hadn't caused the cancellation. I told her I'd pay 1 day of standby from Mountain Line. "You don't have to," she said. "Yes, I do. That job wasn't your fault. I held your time." She left without arguing. I opened the company account on my computer. The month had been decent, but not comfortable. 1 truck payment was due the following week. Insurance followed 3 days later. I scheduled the standby payment. Then I looked at Gregory's email again. Until that morning, I had still been measuring success by whether I could correct the plan and help him qualify. That goal no longer made sense. Gregory had seen the overloaded trailer. He had seen the damaged straps. He had been told the driver didn't have the right license. Then he removed those facts from the schedule because they threatened his deadline. The problem wasn't that he needed my experience. The problem was that he wanted the appearance of my approval without accepting what approval required. I printed his revised schedule. Then I placed it beside my original checklist and marked every missing item. There were 7. At 10, I drove to the depot. The generator trailer was gone. Gregory had sent it back to the vendor. That was one correction. The water tanks had been moved forward on the trailer. New straps lay unopened on the deck. That was another. I found Gregory in the conference room. He looked tired. "You saw the yard," he said. "We're fixing it." "I saw. So we agree." "No." His chair stopped moving. I put both checklists on the table. "You removed 7 findings before they were corrected. I simplified the update. You changed its meaning. I made progress after you left. Then document the progress. Don't erase the requirement." He leaned back. "What do you want now?" "I want Mountain Line removed from any document that says approval is expected. That kills the bid." "It doesn't. It tells the truth. The truth is, you're the carrier. The truth is, I haven't authorized anything." He looked at the original checklist. "You're going to walk away after I fixed half your complaints. If the final plan is safe, I'll still consider it." "Consider it?" "Yes." He laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "I gave up other work to hold these trucks," I said. "That doesn't buy you my signature." He stared at me. For the first time, I didn't care whether helping him made me useful to the family. I cared whether he could put Mountain Line's name on unsafe work and call my silence consent. I took his revised schedule off the table and left my original checklist in front of him. From this point on, I said, my job isn't to get you approved. My job is to make sure you don't use my license for something I refuse to approve. Gregory's face changed. Not anger at first. Surprise. You don't get to talk to me like I'm stealing from you. Then stop claiming something I haven't given. I haven't signed your name. You wrote that authorization will be executed. Because that's the next step. It's a possible step. He stood. You're twisting words. I'm making mine clear. I took the original checklist from the table. You left that for me. I changed my mind. I need it for the county file. You have your version. You said mine was inaccurate. It is. Then leave the accurate one. No. His hand moved toward the clipboard. I lifted it before he could touch it. You can have a copy. The original stays with me. Why? Because you edited the first copy. He looked at me for several seconds. Then he opened the conference room door. I have work to do. So do I. I walked out with the clipboard under my arm. Back at my office, I created a new document. It wasn't long. Mountain Line had not approved the current driver assignments, equipment list, load plan, or communications plan. No Mountain Line employee had permission to sign the carrier addendum except me. No Mountain Line truck would enter the active demonstration lineup without my written release. I attached the original checklist and the revised schedule. Then I added one final paragraph. Lambert Event Logistics could continue the demonstration without Mountain Line only if it removed my company's name, trucks, insurance, and operating authority from the plan. I sent it to Gregory. I copied my company email and saved a printed copy in the folder inside my lead truck. He called less than a minute later. You put this in writing? Yes. For who? For both companies. This reads like a legal threat. It's a business notice. You're trying to build a case against me. I'm documenting that Mountain Line has not consented. I know you haven't signed yet. Then the notice shouldn't surprise you. You attached my readiness schedule. I attached the version you submitted. You don't have permission to distribute my documents. I sent it to you. He stopped. I could hear him breathing. What do you want me to do with this? He asked. Correct the plan or remove Mountain Line. That's not a choice. It is. Not if I want the contract. That part belongs to you. You're enjoying this. No. You finally have something over me. I looked at the company calendar. The canceled refrigeration dates were still blocked in blue. If I wanted something over you, I'd wait until the last minute. He didn't answer. I'm telling you now, I said. That gives you time to find another carrier. You know there isn't time. You had time before you filed the bid. You said you'd help. I'm still offering a safe path. Your safe path keeps changing. No, the equipment changed. The information changed. My standard didn't. He hung up. That afternoon, I moved my second truck from the depot yard back to Mountain Line. Gregory had asked to keep it there for equipment placement. I had agreed before seeing his revised schedule. That permission was over. My driver met me at the depot. She climbed into the second truck while I checked the gate path. Gregory came out of the warehouse. Where's she going? Back to our yard. We're testing the water trailer this afternoon. Use one of your verified vehicles. The hitch was set for that truck. Reset it. He walked alongside me. You can't keep pulling equipment every time we disagree. I can move my truck. It's listed in the readiness schedule. That doesn't make it yours. The engine started. Gregory looked up at my driver through the cab window. Can you give me 10 minutes? He called. She looked at me. I pointed toward the gate. She put the truck in gear. That was the first time the new boundary had to work in front of someone else. It did. The truck crossed the yard slowly, turned onto Neville Street, and headed back to Mountain Line. Gregory watched until it disappeared. Then he said, You made your point. I moved my equipment. You did it in front of my crew. They work in the yard. You wanted them to see. I wanted the truck back. He shook his head. You were never this difficult before. I was. You just usually got the yes first. He walked into the warehouse. I checked the remaining Mountain Line truck. It was locked. I removed the spare key from the depot keyboard and put it in my pocket. The original key was already with me. Gregory had never used my trucks without permission. Still, I wasn't leaving access unclear. Before I drove away, I photographed the truck's mileage and position. Then I emailed the pictures to myself. At 3:30, the stage trailer arrived. Gregory called me while it was still being backed into the yard. You said you needed to inspect it. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Bring your approval page. I'll bring the checklist. That isn't what I said. I heard you. When I arrived, the trailer stood near the center of the yard. It was a long, enclosed unit with fold-out sections used as a portable platform. The owner had left an inspection packet on the hitch. The current inspection date was missing. I went through the papers twice. The most recent record was from the previous year. Gregory stood beside me. The owner says the new sticker fell off. Where's the current report? He's looking for it. So it isn't verified. He says it passed. I need the record. You have the old one. That doesn't cover this year. Inspect it yourself. I'm not a certified trailer inspector. You inspected everything else. I performed a readiness check. That isn't the same thing. He turned toward the trailer. Brakes work, lights work, tires are good. You tested the brakes? The owner did. Today? Before he brought it? Did you see him? No. I closed the packet. Then the inspection record stays open. We're submitting the schedule today. You already submitted it. The officer requested an updated equipment status by 5. That was new. When? After the vendor call. You didn't tell me. I'm telling you now. It was 4:12. Send me the request. Why? Because you've left out information before. He took out his phone. A few seconds later, the county email appeared in my inbox. The procurement officer wanted a simple status update. She had not asked for carrier approval. I read it twice. You can submit your equipment status, I said. Will you confirm the stage trailer? No. Can you confirm the rest? I can confirm what passed. That helps nobody. It gives you 2 verified trucks, 1 box truck, the corrected water placement, and new straps. What about the generator? Did the replacement trailer arrive? Tomorrow morning. Then I can't confirm it today. He pressed his lips together. The county isn't asking for perfection. Neither am I. He pointed at the stage trailer. You're refusing a working unit because a piece of paper is missing. I'm refusing to verify what I can't verify. I'll put owner certification pending. That's accurate. And Mountain Line review pending? That's accurate too. He stared at me. I waited. Then he opened the update on his phone and changed the line in front of me. Mountain Line carrier review pending final equipment verification. Happy? He asked. It's accurate. That wasn't my question. I know. He sent the update. The practical result was small. 1 line in 1 email. But for the first time, Gregory had told the county my approval was still pending, instead of treating it as guaranteed. The correction gave him something to aim at. My signature was no longer one task among many. It was the last uncertain part of his bid. At 4:40, the replacement generator trailer arrived. I checked the rating before the driver unhooked it. It could carry the generator safely. I marked that item corrected. Gregory watched me write. So now we're good. We're better. What is left? Stage trailer record, driver files, communications test. We test radios tomorrow. With every driver? With whoever is available. That isn't every driver. It's a radio. You press a button and talk. What happens when someone misses a call? They call again. What happens if a civilian vehicle needs the whole movement to stop? We stop. How does the last driver know? The radio. And if the radio fails? He looked at me. This is what I mean. What? There is always one more question. There should be an answer. He walked toward his office. I finished marking the corrected trailer and returned to my truck. At 5:15, Gregory forwarded the county update to Ruth. I knew because he copied me. Above the forwarded message, he wrote one sentence. Cass is still holding final approval, but I'm sure she won't let the family down. Ruth replied to both of us. Of course she won't. I saved the email with the others. Then I wrote back. Mountain Line's approval depends only on the final safety requirements. Family pressure does not change them. Neither of them answered. The next morning, a printed program appeared on the depot conference table. Across the front were the county logo, the guard emblem, and Lambert Event Logistics. Under participating carrier, Gregory had printed Mountain Line Hauling. I picked up the program. The word proposed was gone. Mountain Line Hauling appeared beside carrier, as if the decision had already been made. A stack of programs sat near the wall. The top bundle was tied with string. The lower bundle had been opened. I counted what remained. More than half were gone. One of Gregory's employees walked into the room carrying a box of radio chargers. Where did these programs go? I asked. He took some downtown. Who did? Greg. Did he say where? County office, I think. Vendors got some yesterday. Yesterday? The employee looked at the page in my hand. Maybe late afternoon. He told us to put them in the equipment packets. I set the program on the table. Where is he? Out by the radio trailer. I found Gregory near the warehouse entrance. He had 6 handheld radios lined up on a folding table. Each one had a strip of colored tape near the antenna. I placed the program beside them. Remove Mountain Line. He barely looked at it. We already covered this. No. We covered proposed carrier. This says carrier. It's a program. You distributed it. It lists participants. Mountain Line hasn't agreed to participate. You agreed to review the plan. That isn't participation. You've inspected equipment. You've assigned a driver. Your trucks have been in the yard. My trucks were here for review. He picked up one of the radios and turned it on. A burst of static came through the speaker. Do you know what it costs to reprint those? He asked. Less than using my name without permission. He put the radio down. You're not being reasonable. Cross out Mountain Line on every copy. That looks ridiculous. Then reprint them. The county already has the program. Send a correction. And tell them what? My own sister changed her mind? Tell them the carrier is still pending. He laughed. That makes me look incompetent. You created the program after I put my position in writing. I created it before your little notice. You distributed it after. His eyes shifted. That answered the question. He knew exactly what he had done. You're going to sign, he said. Not unless the plan passes. It will pass. Then why are we arguing? Because you keep moving the finish line. I gave you the list, and I fixed almost everything. Almost isn't final approval. He stepped closer. This isn't just your decision anymore. It is exactly my decision. There are vendors committed. County people are scheduled. The guard is scheduled. My crew has spent 2 weeks preparing. None of them can sign for Mountain Line. You would embarrass all of us over a radio procedure? If that procedure is the last safety problem, fix it. His phone rang. He looked at the screen and answered. Hi, Mom. I turned away. Then he said, No, she's standing right here. I looked back. Gregory put the call on speaker. Ruth's voice filled the space between us. What's happening? Gregory kept his eyes on me. Cass wants me to reprint the program. Why? Because Mountain Line is listed as the carrier. There was a short pause. I thought Mountain Line was the carrier, Ruth said. It isn't authorized, I told her. But you're helping. I'm reviewing the operation. Cassandra, you've been working on this for 2 weeks. That doesn't make the final plan safe. Gregory picked up the program. She wants me to tell the county I printed the wrong carrier. Did you? Ruth asked. I printed the carrier we've been using for the plan. That isn't what she asked, I said. Ruth sighed. Please don't turn this into another argument. I asked him to remove my company. And then what happens? He finds another carrier or fixes the remaining problems. In 2 days? That deadline belongs to the bid. Gregory shook his head. My sister will eventually protect the family from embarrassment. She always does. He said it to Ruth, but he watched me. There was the pressure in plain language. Ruth answered softly. I know she will. I reached over and ended the call. Gregory stared at the phone. You had no right to do that. You put me on speaker. She's worried sick. You made her part of this. You did that when you questioned her about my loan. I asked because she was pressuring me to lower my price. You didn't lower anything. I lost the refrigeration work holding trucks for you. That isn't my fault. No, it's my cost. You want me to pay you for a job you didn't take? I want you to understand that I already paid to stand here. He gathered the radios. If you walk away now, Mountain Line gets nothing. We don't have a signed subcontract. Exactly. He meant it as a warning. It landed as a fact. I had spent hours reviewing his plan. I had paid my driver standby. I had held trucks. I had lost a clean job. If I refused the addendum, none of that came back. Remove my company from the program, I said. No, then I'll correct the record myself. His head came up. Are you threatening to contact the county? I'm telling you what happens next. If you sabotage this bid, I will never forgive you. I'm not responsible for promises you made without my approval. You said you would help. I did help. You found problems. Yes. That isn't help. It kept you from hauling an overweight generator. His mouth tightened. You think that makes you the hero? No. What do you think it makes you? The carrier you haven't authorized. I left the program on the radio table and walked back to my truck. Before I reached it, one of the equipment vendors called. We're confirming arrival for inspection day, he said. Program says Mountain Line is coordinating entry. Who gave you the program? Lambert Event Logistics. When? Yesterday. I looked toward Gregory. He was gathering the radios into their case. Mountain Line is not the confirmed carrier, I said. The vendor went quiet. Then who is? That's a question for Gregory. Are your trucks participating? Not unless I approve the final plan. He told us the carrier paperwork was routine. It isn't complete. The man cleared his throat. We've got a crew scheduled. I understand. So should we show up? Gregory controls the event schedule. I control Mountain Line. That doesn't really answer me. It's the only answer I can give. When the call ended, I knew the damage had spread. To the vendor, I sounded uncertain. To Gregory, I looked obstructive. The program had taken my clear, written boundary and turned it into a public disagreement. That afternoon, the missing stage trailer record appeared. It was current. The owner had emailed the inspection report to Gregory, and Gregory forwarded it to me with no message. I marked the item complete. 2 more driver files arrived. Both were qualified for their assigned vehicles. Gregory moved the unqualified employee back to the box truck. I marked those items complete too. By 4 o'clock, the remaining issue was communications. Gregory assembled 6 available drivers in the yard. I stood near the folding table with my clipboard. Each driver received a handheld radio. The units worked within the depot. Gregory stood at one end of the yard and called each vehicle number. Every driver answered. He looked at me. There. Tested. What is the halt procedure? I asked. He pressed the button. All vehicles stop. The drivers looked at one another. I turned to the woman assigned to the last civilian vehicle. If the first truck calls an emergency stop, what do? Stop. How do you know the vehicles behind you heard it? She looked at Gregory. He said, they acknowledge. In what order? I asked. Any order. That creates cross-transmissions. It's 6 vehicles. 8 are listed. 2 drivers aren't here. Then the test is incomplete. He put down his radio. You said test the equipment. I said conduct a radio test with every civilian driver. The equipment works. The plan doesn't. He spread both hands. What do you want? 1 clear halt call. Each vehicle acknowledges in order. If a vehicle misses, the next driver repeats the halt by radio and horn. Nobody moves again until the convoy lead confirms. That's unnecessary. It's simple. It's military. It's 6 sentences. He looked at the drivers. They were listening. That mattered to him. We'll include something, he said. Write it now. I have other work. Then Mountain Line remains unapproved. He walked into the warehouse. The drivers began placing the radios in the charging rack. My available driver stayed behind. Are we doing this job? She asked. I don't know. I turned down a local run for Thursday. I hadn't known that. Who offered it? She named a landscaping supplier. When? Yesterday. Can you still take it? They found someone. There was another cost, not only mine this time. I'll pay the standby day we agreed on, I said. She looked toward the warehouse. He should pay it. He hasn't signed our subcontract. So why are we here? That was a fair question, because my company's name is already here. She nodded toward the program. I saw that. You didn't agree to it. No, neither did I. I paid her another standby day before leaving the depot. Then I moved the last mountain line truck out of the active yard. Both company trucks went back behind my locked gate. My lead truck stayed with me. That evening, Ruth called 3 times. I didn't answer. She left one voicemail. I don't understand what you're doing. Gregory says everything is fixed. If you make him lose this in front of the county, people will remember. I saved the message. At 9, Gregory emailed the final communications plan. It said all civilian vehicles would use handheld radios and follow instructions from the convoy lead. There was still no halt procedure. I replied with the 6 sentences he had refused to write in the yard. His answer came 10 minutes later. We will discuss on inspection day. The unsigned addendum was due at 4 o'clock that same day. He believed the yard, the officials, the vendors, and our mother would do what the plan had not. They would make it harder for me to say no. I printed the communications plan and placed it behind my original checklist. Then I took the unsigned addendum from the company folder and held it under the desk lamp. One signature would recover the county job for Gregory. It might recover my fee. It might calm Ruth. It would also put Mountain Line behind a plan I had refused in writing. I returned the page to the folder. The next morning, I told my driver to accept any other work she could find. Then I sent Gregory one final message. My trucks will remain outside the active lineup. I will attend the inspection. If the halt procedure is not adopted, the addendum stays unsigned. He responded with 2 words. We'll see. I called county procurement when the office opened. The same officer from the vendor call answered. This is Cassandra Lambert with Mountain Line Hauling. Yes, ma'am. I need to confirm the carrier requirement before tomorrow. What would you like clarified? If Mountain Line does not execute the addendum by 4 o'clock, can Lambert Event Logistics remain eligible using Mountain Line's name in the program? No. The program has no bearing on eligibility, so the printed name doesn't create authorization. Correct. I looked at Gregory's program on my desk. Could Lambert Event Logistics replace Mountain Line before the deadline? Yes, if another qualified carrier completes the required review and executes the addendum before 4. That carrier would need to accept the same operational responsibility. Yes, and if no qualified carrier signs, the bid would be non-responsive. She said it without judgment, no threat, no sympathy. Just the rule Gregory had heard on the same call I had. The officer continued, Are you notifying the county that Mountain Line has withdrawn? No. That answer seemed to surprise her. Then what is your status? Mountain Line has not entered. Our approval is pending final safety corrections. Understood. I'm still willing to review the final setup. That is between you and Lambert Event Logistics. I know. If you intend to participate, the executed addendum must be delivered by 4. I understand. She paused. Would you like me to note that Mountain Line is not currently authorized? I could have said yes. One sentence in the county file would have forced Gregory to explain himself before the inspection even began. It also would have removed his last chance to fix the procedure. Not yet, I said. I'll make the final decision at the yard. All right. Can the lead bidder submit a scanned signature? Not without the carrier's authorized signatory executing it. And the county original remains with the bid packet? Yes. That removed the last uncertainty. Gregory could print my company name on every program in Beckley. He could park equipment under banners. He could tell Ruth I would come around. None of it replaced my signature. I thanked the officer and ended the call. Then I wrote down the date, time, and questions while they were fresh. I didn't write that she supported me. She hadn't. She had confirmed the condition. What I did with it belonged to me. My next call was to Gregory. He answered from the depot. What now? I confirmed the deadline. With the county? Yes. You went around me. I verified the carrier requirement. I already told you the deadline. You also printed Mountain Line as confirmed. He was quiet. I continued. You can still use another qualified carrier if they review the plan and sign by 4 tomorrow. You know I can't arrange that. I'm giving you the option. You're giving me nothing. You can also remove Mountain Line and conduct whatever portion the county allows without our authority. The county won't award the contract. That's the condition, which you're choosing to use against me. It existed before you called me. You didn't answer my question. Are you signing or not? Adopt the halt procedure and complete the final driver check. The driver check is done. I need to see the last 2 files. I'll have them at the yard. And the procedure? I added emergency stop instructions. Send them. You'll see them tomorrow. Send them now. I'm not doing this all morning. If they're written, send them. He ended the call. 20 minutes later, a 1-page communications plan appeared in my inbox. The final paragraph had changed. In an emergency, drivers would stop when instructed by the convoy lead. Drivers would use radios to report problems. Movement would resume after the convoy lead gave direction. There was still no acknowledgement order, no repeat procedure, no backup signal. I compared it with the 6 sentences I'd sent. He had used none of them. I called once more. He rejected the call. I sent an email instead. This does not establish how a halt reaches every civilian vehicle or how missed radio traffic is repeated. Adopt the procedure previously provided, or Mountain Line will not execute the addendum. He replied near noon. Your preference is noted. That phrase settled something in me. Not the signature, the relationship. Gregory knew I'd identified a gap. He knew the correction was simple. He refused because accepting my procedure would show that I had authority over my trucks. He wanted my company's credentials without that visible fact. I could have replied to everyone on his vendor list. I could have attached the original checklist, his edited version, the photographs, and the expired records. I could have explained exactly how he had built the bid around my equipment before asking. That would have damaged him before the county made any decision. It also would have turned every corrected problem into a public accusation. The generator trailer had been replaced. The water tanks had been repositioned. The straps were new. The stage trailer record was current. Most driver files were complete. Those corrections mattered, even if Gregory resented making them. I wasn't going to pretend he had fixed nothing. I sent the email only to him. This is not a preference. It is Mountain Line's minimum requirement. You still have time to adopt it or remove my company. No answer came. At 1, Ruth arrived at my office. She carried the empty pie plate in one hand. The plate had been washed and wrapped in a dish towel. I thought you might want this back, she said. You could have kept it. I have enough plates. She placed it on my desk. I waited. She looked around the office. Her eyes moved over the filing cabinet, the dispatch board, and the framed picture of my first truck. You've done well here, she said. Thank you. I don't say that enough. No. Her mouth tightened. I'm trying, Cassandra. So am I. She sat in the chair across from me. Gregory says you called the county to confirm the rule. You didn't trust him? I needed the answer from the office enforcing it. He thinks you're planning to embarrass him tomorrow. I asked him to correct one procedure. He says everything is corrected. Then he should have no problem sending the final plan. He did. It's still incomplete. Ruth rubbed her thumb along the edge of the dish towel. I don't understand radios and trailers. You don't have to. I understand my children. I said nothing. She looked at the company folder beside my computer. Is the signature in there? The unsigned copy is. Why are you carrying it around? Because it belongs with the company records. You know what I mean. Yes. She leaned forward. Couldn't you sign it and make him fix the last thing afterward? No. You know he'd fix it. He's refusing to fix it now, because you two have turned this into pride. It isn't pride. It is on both sides. I could have shown her the 2 checklists. The original with 7 findings. Gregory's version with those findings removed. That would have answered her question. It also would have been using Ruth as pressure against him, the same thing he had done to me. I left both pages in the folder. Mom, I'm not asking you to choose. You already have. No. Gregory brought you into a contract dispute. I'm asking you to step out. He owes me money. I know. If this contract fails, I may not get it back. I know that too. Then how can you act like it doesn't affect me? I'm not. It feels like you are. She looked at the pie plate. $15,000 is a lot to me. It's a lot to anybody. He said he'd repay me when the first county payment came. The county can't pay an ineligible bid. You keep saying things like that, because that's the contract. She stood. Your brother thinks you want to prove he can't do this without you. I wanted him to do it safely with me. And now I want him to stop treating my approval as something he can announce before he earns it. Ruth picked up her purse. If you refuse in that yard tomorrow, there's no taking it back. I know. People will see. I know. Your brother will see it as betrayal. I know. She walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned around. Will you at least think about what this does to the family? I've thought about little else. After she left, I stayed at my desk. The pie plate sat between the folder and my keyboard. I had refused the easy answer twice. I hadn't killed the bid in the county office. I hadn't shown Ruth the altered checklist. Gregory still had until 4 the next afternoon. He could adopt 6 plain sentences. He could find another carrier. He could remove my name. If he did none of those things, the choice would happen in the yard. That night, I laid out my mountain line uniform, dark work pants, gray company shirt, steel-toed boots. I checked the lead truck before going home. Lights, tires, fluids, emergency equipment, radio, everything passed. In the morning, Gregory sent a group message to vendors. Readiness lineup complete. Mountain line final authorization scheduled before 4. I replied only to him. It is not scheduled. It remains conditional. He didn't answer. At 11:20, I drove to Lambert Transit Depot. Folding tables stood along the side of the paved convoy yard. Programs had been placed on every chair. Civilian vehicles waited in the marked lanes. The National Guard convoy had not arrived yet. Ruth stood near the office entrance beside Gregory. He saw my truck and pointed toward an open place at the front of the civilian lineup. I drove past it. Then I parked outside the active lanes, beside the fence. I left the company folder inside the locked cab. The unsigned addendum stayed with it. I carried the original safety checklist on my clipboard and walked toward the yard. Gregory reached me before I passed the folding tables. Why is your truck over there? Because Mountain Line isn't in the lineup. The inspection starts in 40 minutes. I know. He pointed toward the front position. That space is for you. My truck stays outside the active lanes. You're already here. I said I would attend. You're wearing the company uniform. I own the company. He looked at the clipboard. Where's the addendum? In my truck. Go get it. No. A vendor walked past carrying a box of safety vests. Gregory waited until the man was out of hearing. Don't do this here. I asked you not to do it here. You printed my company in the program. Everything is ready. Did you adopt the halt procedure? We brief at 12:30. That wasn't my question. The drivers will know how to stop. Is the procedure in writing? He looked toward the office. You are not turning 6 sentences into a public crisis. I sent them to you, and I used what was necessary. Then the addendum stays unsigned. His jaw tightened. Ruth remained near the office. She watched us but didn't come closer. Gregory held out one hand. Give me the checklist. No. I need to show the county we completed the corrections. You can show your records. You performed the inspection, and I kept the original. You're acting like I forged something. I'm acting like you changed it. His hand dropped. The county procurement officer entered the yard carrying the bid packet and a slim folder. She greeted Gregory, then looked toward me. Ms. Lambert. Good morning. Will Mountain Line have a vehicle in the demonstration? Not unless the final plan is approved, Gregory answered before she could. We're completing that now. The officer nodded once. I'll need the carrier addendum by 4. I know, I said. She moved toward the check-in table. Gregory leaned close. You're making me look like I lied. I looked at the programs on the chairs. I didn't print those. He walked away. At 12:15, the remaining civilian drivers arrived. I checked the final 2 files. Both were complete. Their licenses matched the vehicles. I marked the driver item corrected. The generator sat on the replacement trailer. The rating was sufficient. Its tie-downs were properly placed. I marked that item complete. The water tanks had been repositioned. New straps held them at rated anchor points. Another correction. The mirror bracket had been repaired. The fire extinguisher tag was current. The stage trailer record matched the serial number. Everything physical now passed. That mattered. I wouldn't have been able to refuse honestly if Gregory had ignored every correction. The equipment in front of me was safer than it had been Monday. The remaining problem was the plan connecting those vehicles. At 12:30, Gregory gathered the civilian drivers. Radio check on Channel 3, he said. Follow the lead vehicle. Maintain visual contact. If there's a problem, call it in. I waited. That was all. A driver raised his hand. What if we lose the vehicle ahead? Notify the lead. What if we can't reach the lead? Gregory looked at the radio in his hand. Try again. I wrote the answer on my clipboard. He saw me. Anything you'd like to add? He asked. Yes. He gave me a tight smile. Go ahead. I faced the drivers. If an emergency halt is called, every vehicle stops. Acknowledge in vehicle order. If the vehicle ahead of you misses the call, repeat it by radio and horn. Do not move again until the convoy lead confirms. The drivers nodded. One of them said, That's clear. Gregory clicked off his radio. We'll cover it during movement. You just did the briefing, I said, and you added your part. It needs to be in the plan. Everybody heard it. 2 drivers are standing near the trucks. He looked toward them. They have radios. They didn't hear the procedure. He turned away from me. Get to your vehicles. The drivers began moving into the yard. At 12:45, the guard convoy arrived. The first vehicles entered through the north gate. They moved slowly and evenly, leaving clean space between each unit. A uniformed officer stepped down from the lead vehicle and spoke with the county officer near the tables. I saw the name on his uniform before I saw his face. Rivas. For a moment, the yard fell away. I remembered dust on a windshield, a dead radio handset, a line of support vehicles waiting for instructions that weren't coming. Then the present returned. Stephen Rivas was 52 now. Silver showed near his temples. A lieutenant colonel insignia sat on his uniform. He hadn't seen me. I stayed beside the civilian lane and checked the route diagram. Gregory directed 2 box trucks into the center positions. The stage trailer came next. The water trailer followed. The spacing looked wrong. I walked along the lane, counting steps between vehicles. The civilian line would exit through the west gate. The guard vehicles would merge from the north side after the first 2 civilian units cleared. Gregory had placed the stage trailer too close to the truck ahead. Its rear section extended farther than the diagram showed. When it turned, the next vehicle would have to slow sharply. The water trailer behind it had no room to do that safely. I found Gregory near the front. You need another vehicle length behind the stage trailer. We measured it. The trailer is longer than the diagram. It fits. Standing still. He looked past me at the county officer. Not now. The water trailer needs more stopping space. We're not moving at highway speed. It still needs room. He called to one of his employees. Move the water unit back 5 feet. 5 feet isn't enough. He ignored me. The employee moved the vehicle. I walked the distance again. The rear wheels stopped near a painted merge line. When the guard element entered, the spacing would narrow further. I showed Gregory on the yard diagram. This line is your merge boundary. The water unit can't sit across it. We'll clear before they merge. If the stage trailer pauses, you won't. It won't pause. You built a halt demonstration into the inspection. He looked at me. The county officer had requested a simulated stop during the readiness movement. Gregory had placed it near the gate. I pointed at the route. If the halt is called here, the water trailer stops on the merge. Move it back now. Several vendors had gathered near us. Gregory gave a short laugh. She was just a driver. The words traveled across the yard. Nobody spoke. I kept my eyes on the diagram. Then someone behind Gregory said, "Staff Sergeant Lambert?" I turned. Riva stood several feet away. He looked directly at me. "Sir," I said. His face opened into recognition. "It is you?" "Yes, sir." He stepped closer and offered his hand. I shook it. "I didn't know you were in Beckley," he said. "I've been here a few years." He looked at the Mountain Line name on my shirt. "This is your company?" "Yes, sir." Gregory stood beside us holding the yard diagram. Rivas glanced at him, then back at me. "She led my support convoy when our communications failed on a rotation," he said. "Staff Sergeant Lambert kept the vehicle order intact until we restored contact." Gregory's mouth opened slightly. Rivas continued, speaking to me now. "You made every driver repeat the halt signal down the line. We didn't have working radios. You made the system work anyway." I nodded. "That was the job." He looked toward the vehicles. "What did you find here? The civilian spacing crosses your merge boundary if the stage trailer stops." Rivas studied the yard markings. Then he called one of his own people over. "Hold the guard element until the civilian interval is corrected." That was all. He didn't mention Gregory's bid. He didn't speak to the county officer. He didn't tell anyone to listen to me. He handled his convoy. I handled mine. Gregory told his employee to move the water trailer back another vehicle length. This time, he didn't argue. The spacing passed. At 1, the county inspection began. The officer checked vehicle records, vendor certifications, equipment placement, and driver lists. She compared serial numbers against the bid packet. The civilian units passed their physical checks. The simulated radio calls did not. When the officer called an emergency halt, the first 4 drivers answered at once. Their voices crossed over each other. The 5th driver didn't respond. The last driver waited, unsure whether the missed response meant a radio failure or a delayed call. The vehicles weren't moving yet, so nobody was in danger. The confusion was still obvious. Gregory walked down the line and spoke to the 5th driver. The radio volume had been turned too low. He adjusted it. "Equipment issue," he told the county officer. "Corrected." She made a note but didn't comment. I marked the test incomplete. At 2:30, they performed a short yard movement. This time, Gregory told the drivers to acknowledge in order. The halt worked. He came to me afterward. "You saw that?" "Yes, it worked. Because you used the procedure, so we're done. Put it in the plan." He looked around the yard. Everyone just watched it work. The authorization covers the operation, not one test. "I'll add it later." "Add it now." He checked his watch. It was 2:43. "You're really going to hold the signature over wording?" "I'm holding it over whether the plan tells drivers what to do. They know now. Tomorrow's driver may not. There is no tomorrow's driver. It's a county contract, Gregory. This demonstration is not the whole job." His face tightened. "I knew you'd find another reason. It's the same reason." At 3:15, the county officer completed her inspection. The guard vehicles remained in their separate lane. Rivas stood with his people near the north gate. He did not look toward the bid table. Gregory opened the county packet. He removed the original carrier authorization addendum and placed it in front of me. Then he set a pen beside it. "Sign." Ruth stood behind him. Vendors remained near the chairs. Several were packing equipment, but nobody had left. I read the page. Nothing in the addendum had changed. Executing it would confirm that Mountain Line had reviewed and accepted the final operation. I looked at Gregory. "Did you revise the communications plan? We demonstrated your procedure. Is it written?" "It will be. Before or after I sign." "Cass, before or after?" He lowered his voice. "Do not humiliate me over this." I looked at the county officer. "Mountain Line has not authorized this operation." Gregory put one hand flat on the table. "You just inspected it?" "Yes." "And it passed. The physical equipment passed. The communications plan did not. We corrected it live. You used the procedure once. You refused to adopt it in the plan. He pushed the pen closer. Sign the page. No. Ruth inhaled behind him. Gregory's face went pale. You're refusing? I'm declining to execute the addendum. The county officer checked the clock on the wall of the depot office. It was 3:22. She looked at Gregory. You may submit another qualified carrier authorization before 4. He stared at her. You know that isn't possible. I'm stating the condition. He turned back to me. Write whatever procedure you want. I already did. Fine. I accept it. Put it in the plan and issue the correction. His eyes moved toward the vendors. I'm not changing the program now. The program isn't the plan. You know what I mean? Yes. You don't want people to see that Mountain Line had operational control over its trucks. He picked up the pen, then he set it down again. At 3:50, nothing had changed. The addendum remained on the table. At 4 o'clock, the procurement officer closed the county folder. Lambert Event Logistics has not submitted the required carrier authorization, she said. The submission is non-responsive. Raleigh County cannot award or pay this contract. Nobody cheered. Nobody needed to. Gregory looked at the unsigned page, then at me. For the first time since he called, he understood that public pressure had never owned my signature. He picked up the addendum. You planned this? No. You brought your truck. You brought the checklist. You called the county. I gave you the correction 2 days ago. You waited until everyone was watching. I told you in writing that I would not sign. Gregory turned toward the vendors. The demonstration itself passed. The procurement officer closed the bid packet. The carrier requirement did not. We corrected the radio issue in the yard. The issue before the county is the missing authorization. I can submit it tomorrow. The deadline was 4. He looked at me again. Tell her you'll sign tomorrow. I won't sign the current plan. His hand closed around the page. You got what you wanted. What do you think I wanted? To prove I can't do anything without you. Ruth stepped between us. Not here. Gregory laughed once. That mattered 5 minutes ago. A vendor approached the table. What happens to our invoices? He asked. Gregory looked at the county officer. She answered carefully. Raleigh County has no payable contract with Lambert Event Logistics. The vendor looked at Gregory. We were told today was covered. It is, Gregory said. By who? Send the invoice to my office. The vendor nodded, but his expression changed. Another vendor came over with the same question, then another. Each received the same answer. Lambert Event Logistics would pay. The county would not. The programs remained on the chairs with Mountain Line printed across them. One of Gregory's employees began collecting the copies. He stacked them face down. The guard vehicles started leaving through the north gate. Their spacing stayed even as they turned onto Neville Street. Rivas walked over before entering his vehicle. It was good to see you, Staff Sergeant, he said. You too, sir. He glanced at the civilian lineup. Take care of yourself. Yes, sir. That was the entire conversation. He didn't ask about the contract. He didn't congratulate me for refusing it. He had his work and I had mine. After his vehicle left, I returned to my truck. Ruth followed me. Cassandra. I unlocked the cab. Not now, Mom. Your brother is falling apart. He needs to speak with his vendors. He says you knew this would happen. He knew it would happen. That isn't what I asked. I turned toward her. I sent him the exact halt procedure. I told him the addendum would stay unsigned without it. I told him to remove Mountain Line from the program. He said everything passed. The physical equipment passed. So one paragraph cost him the contract? No. His refusal to accept the carrier's control cost him the contract. She looked back toward the yard. Gregory stood beside the folding tables with 2 vendors. He was writing something on a pad. Could you have signed and fixed it later? She asked. No, you keep saying that, because it's still the answer. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. He owes me $15,000. I know. What happens now? I don't know. You could help him make the vendor payments. No. She looked at me sharply. I don't mean give him money. What do you mean? You know how to organize this. That is his company. You're really walking away? I'm leaving the yard. That's not what I meant. I opened the company folder and removed the 2 checklists. The original stayed clipped to my board. Gregory's edited version was folded behind it. I handed both to Ruth. Read them. She looked down. What are these? The first is what I found Monday. The second is what Gregory submitted after removing items. Her eyes moved across the pages. She checked one, then the other. The yard noise continued behind us. Trailer doors closed, engines started, people called to each other. Ruth read slowly. He took out the driver files, she said. Yes. And the inspection record. Yes. The radio test. Yes. When did you see this version? Monday night. Why didn't you show me? Because it was business between us. She looked toward Gregory again. He told me you kept adding requirements. I kept the original. Ruth compared the pages one more time. The generator trailer was overloaded? Yes. Did he know? He held the checklist in his hand. She returned the papers. Her face had changed. Not completely. She was still frightened about her money. She still wanted the afternoon undone. But she knew Gregory had not told her the whole truth. I need to talk to him, she said. That's your choice. She started across the yard, then stopped. You were the carrier. Yes. Not just his sister with trucks. No. She nodded once and walked away. I put the checklists back in the folder. Before leaving, I took the unsigned copy of the addendum and wrote a note across the top. Not executed. Deadline passed. I dated it and returned it to the company file. The next morning, Gregory sent me a bill. It was for program printing, yard setup, radio rental, and vendor cancellation charges. At the bottom, he had written Mountain Line share. The total was $11,800. There was no contract attached. I replied with one sentence. Mountain Line did not authorize these costs and will not pay them. He called twice. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. You don't get to walk away clean after doing this. Half those corrections were for your benefit. The radio procedure was yours. You participated right up until the point where participation cost you something. I saved the voicemail. Then I paid my driver's standby and the fuel used moving trucks between yards. Mountain Line's loss was a little over $5,000 when I included the canceled refrigeration job and unpaid inspection time. Gregory's loss was larger. That didn't make mine imaginary. By Friday, the county listing showed the procurement closed without award to Lambert Event Logistics. No replacement carrier appeared. No second bidder took Gregory's place through some hidden process. The contract simply did not go to him. Vendors began calling his office for payment. 2 copied Mountain Line because our name appeared in the program. I answered each one the same way. Mountain Line did not contract your services. Please direct the invoice to Lambert Event Logistics. One vendor pushed back. Your company was on every page. I know. You were in the yard. I attended as the proposed carrier and declined authorization. Gregory said you withdrew at the deadline. I never entered. There was a pause. That isn't what we were told. I can send the written notice dated before the inspection. He asked for it. I sent only the notice stating that Mountain Line had not consented. I did not send the family emails or checklist photographs. That was enough. He removed Mountain Line from the invoice copy. The same thing happened with the second vendor. My written notice worked exactly once for each problem. It corrected the record without asking anyone to punish Gregory. The following Sunday, I skipped supper at Ruth's house. She called at 7:30. I made soup, she said. I already ate. You always come Sunday. Not always. There was a quiet moment. Gregory isn't here, she said. That isn't why. I told him I saw both checklists. I sat down at my kitchen table. What did he say? He said the first one was too detailed. That sounds like him. I asked whether you gave him the radio procedure before inspection day, and he wouldn't answer. I looked at the empty chair across from me. I'm not coming tonight. I understand. She sounded as if she didn't, but she let the answer stand. That was different. A week passed without contact from Gregory. I kept Mountain Line moving with smaller local jobs. One truck hauled temporary fencing. Another moved a generator that fit the trailer carrying it. The lead truck stayed with me. On the 8th day, a padded envelope arrived at my office. Inside were the spare depot gate card, 2 Mountain Line magnetic door signs Gregory had used on display boards, and the remaining printed programs. A handwritten note sat on top. Your company has been removed from all Lambert event logistics materials. There was no apology. There was no request. I checked his website. Mountain Line was gone. Then I opened the vendor portal he had shared during the bid. A new payment schedule had been posted. Lambert Event Logistics had accepted responsibility for every readiness inspection invoice. The first payment was marked sent. I printed the page and placed it behind the unsigned addendum. Gregory still hadn't admitted what he'd done, but for the first time, he had stopped asking someone else's name to carry it. 3 more vendor payments cleared over the next month. Gregory paid them from his company account. He postponed 2 equipment purchases and cut his advertising budget. I knew because Ruth told me. She didn't ask me to help. That was the difference. The remaining programs disappeared from his office. The county bid packet went into storage. He stopped using the Convoy photographs on his website. Mountain Line remained separate. Ruth came to my office one Tuesday carrying 2 bowls of soup. She placed one beside my keyboard and sat without removing her coat. "I'm not here to discuss Gregory," she said. "All right, I mean it, all right." She watched me remove the lid. It was vegetable soup, the same kind she made when it was only me. "Did you eat?" I asked. "Not yet." I gave her a plastic spoon from my desk drawer. We ate in the office. For 10 minutes, we discussed a loose railing on her back steps. I told her I'd look at it Sunday. Then she said, "I was wrong to tell you family mattered more than the contract." I set down my spoon. She kept looking into the bowl. "I didn't understand what he was asking you to sign. You didn't ask." "No. He made it sound simple." "I wanted it to be simple." "I know." She folded her napkin. "I was afraid about the money. That part was real." "Yes. Has he paid anything?" $2,000. That left $13,000. "He gave me a schedule," she said. $500 a month. Is he following it? He has so far. That's something." She looked at me. I should never have loaned it without asking more questions. I didn't tell her she was right. She already knew. When we finished eating, Ruth carried both bowls to the sink in the shop restroom. She washed them herself. A few days later, I went to her house for supper. Gregory called while we were at the table. Ruth looked at the screen, then answered. "I'm eating with Cassandra." I could hear his voice, but not the words. "No," Ruth said. "I'm not putting you on speaker. If you need to ask her something, call her tomorrow." She ended the call and returned to her potatoes. That was the first time I saw the new boundary hold without my hand on it. Gregory didn't call the next day. He didn't call the week after that either. I saw his trucks around Beckley. His company still handled events. He scaled back the transport side and focused on work his own crew could support. For larger moves, he hired qualified carriers under written agreements. He stopped describing access as capacity. 2 months after the inspection, he came to Mountain Line. He arrived before noon and waited in the front office while I finished a dispatch call. When I hung up, he placed a folder on my desk. "I'm not asking for a signature." I leaned back. "What are you asking for?" 10 minutes. "You have 10. He sat down. He looked older than he had in the county yard. Not dramatically, just tired around the eyes. "All the inspection vendors are paid," he said. I didn't respond. "I can show you. I saw the portal." He nodded. "I've made 3 payments to Mom. She told me. I removed Mountain Line from everything. I know." He folded his hands. For once, he didn't fill the silence. Then he said, "I used your company before I had permission." "Yes." "I thought because you'd helped before, you would help again." "Yes." "I changed your checklist because it made me look unprepared." I waited. I told myself the corrections were excessive, he continued. "Some weren't. I knew that." "Which ones?" "The trailer, The driver, the radios, all of them. He nodded. All of them. His voice stayed low. I thought if enough people were standing there, you wouldn't say no. That was the plan. Yes. He looked at the framed picture of my first truck. I'm sorry. I didn't tell him it was fine. It wasn't. He didn't ask whether I forgave him. He didn't ask me to call the county. He didn't ask for his fee, the lost contract, or a different version of what happened. He stood. At the door, he paused. I heard what Colonel Rivas said. I said nothing. I didn't know you led anything over there. You never asked. No. He left. The apology didn't restore trust. It did something smaller. It gave the truth a place in the room without asking me to move it. For the next 3 months, Gregory and I spoke only when necessary. Ruth invited us both to supper twice. The first time, Gregory declined. The second time, he came. He brought apple pie. Nobody discussed the county. After dinner, Ruth asked him to carry a box from the hall closet. He carried it. She asked me to check the back railing. I checked it. For once, neither task became evidence of who mattered more. The railing needed 2 new screws. I fixed it in 5 minutes. In early fall, Gregory emailed me a request for a quote. His company had been hired to move temporary lighting, fencing, and portable equipment between 3 local event sites. The work required 2 trucks over 2 days. The email included load weights, site addresses, pickup windows, and equipment contacts. The last line said, Mountain Line retains authority over its trucks and drivers. I read the request twice. Then I called him. Who wrote this? I did. You included the weights. I weighed the loaded pallets. Actual weights? Yes. What trailers? Yours, if we agree. What happened to the schedule? The client wanted everything moved in one afternoon. That isn't happening. I told them 2 days. And they accepted. I turned to the second page. His proposed rate was too low. My price is 30% higher. He was quiet for a second. Send the quote. I'll send a written subcontract. Fine. Mountain Line retains operational command from loading through final delivery. I put that in. I'm saying it aloud. All right. If your event schedule changes, you call before changing any truck movement. All right. If a load doesn't pass, it stays. I understand. I waited for him to mention family. He didn't. I sent the subcontract that afternoon at market rate. Gregory reviewed it and asked one question about the fuel charge. I explained it. He accepted the answer. Then he signed. The deposit arrived 2 days later. I didn't give him all 3 trucks. I gave him 1 future job with 2 trucks, clear limits, and no borrowed authority. The first test came the evening before loading. One event site asked Gregory to move its pickup 3 hours earlier. That change would have pushed my driver beyond the schedule we approved. The old Gregory would have told the client yes, then called me to make it work. This time, he called first. Can Mountain Line move earlier? No. Is there any flexibility? 30 minutes. That won't help them. Then keep the original time. He was quiet. All right, he said. 10 minutes later, he emailed the client and kept the original schedule. The second test came in the depot yard. 1 fencing pallet arrived heavier than its paperwork showed. My driver stopped loading and called me. Gregory stood beside the forklift. I checked the weight label and told him the pallet needed to be split. That adds another lift, he said. Yes, in 20 minutes, probably. He looked toward the event crew waiting near the warehouse. Then he told the forklift operator to divide the load. No joke. No call to Ruth. No comment about military rigidity. We completed the first day without a problem. At supper that Sunday, Ruth asked how the job had gone. Gregory answered before I could. Her trucks ran on her plan. Ruth nodded. That sounds right. It was a small sentence. It was also the correct fact. The second day began at Lambert Transit Depot. I arrived before sunrise and checked both trucks. The drivers reviewed the route, radio order, and halt procedure. Gregory stood outside the active loading area with the event schedule in his hand. He stayed there while I completed the inspection. When I gave the signal, the gate opened. If this story moved you, subscribe and let me know where you are watching from." The sky over Beckley had just started turning gray. My driver acknowledged the route. The second truck answered in order. I checked both mirrors and eased forward. At the west gate, I called a short halt. The second truck stopped and acknowledged. Gregory didn't step into the lane. He didn't wave us through to protect his schedule. He waited. I checked the road, confirmed movement, and released the convoy. The temporary lights were secured. The fencing sat balanced over the axles. Every document in my folder matched the equipment behind me. I passed the old office window and reached Neville Street. In my mirror, the second truck held the correct interval. My authorized truck left the depot at the head of an orderly convoy while Gregory waited behind the boundary line.